What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is D.H. Thorne here with my good friend and brother, E.A. KOETTING. Now, we'll do a little bit of a mic check here, make sure everybody can hear us, because sometimes we have sound issues, but assuming everything is going well, E.A., welcome to my channel, my humble little channel, where I have been doing my work for a little while, and not entirely without your influence, I must say. Watching your videos and things definitely inspired me to start my own path. So give us the good word, brother. How you doing?
Yeah, thank you. No, I'm doing really well. That's well, the topic of discussion is ball and kind of raising yourself to the king of to become the king of kings, to embody that thank you right there, to embody that leadership within your own life and yourself. And boy, am I glad that I listened to a lot of the things that I was told by Ball, a lot of things that were channeled there, as far as not necessarily the rituals, but the observances, what you need to be aware of as you step into your own power, how to arrange your life so you're actually working towards a holistically better life, rather than just pumping up your empire, pumping up the business, that you're also leveling that with your relationships, with you taking care of yourself.
Like Mr. Miyagi said, balance, Daniel-san, balance. You have to have balance in your life.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. But things are great. Because of my actually taking and applying what Ball had to teach me, things are great. Things could have been not great at all. Like at the point that I approached Ball through this path working, I was really needing some direction in how to not self-destruct, how to not take all of my power and just turn it inwards, or turn it into really a destructive force in my life. And yeah, that was so he put some key elements in there, but mainly, what are you doing every single day? What are your daily habits? So,
in fact, that's one of the things that draws people to you and your work, is that, not rags to riches success story, but that kamikaze dive pullout that you have made famous, that you have, developed this kind of like, what I love, okay, I'm going to be honest with you right now, like I've always honest with you. One of the things I fucking love about when I talk to you and when I watch your videos, it's pretty much the same guy, okay? There's not a lot of difference between you in private and on your videos. But also you're like me, you don't hide a lot of crap in the closet, and whatever's hidden there is going to stay there by its own accord. You're not going to fucking boom, slam the door. You can't get to know that. You're just going to be like, my secrets protect themselves. And you're honest about your experiences, and I don't want to say failings at all, because I don't see them that way, but about your experiences that have built you into the person you are. And those, there's always challenges. You're always gonna have things that are gonna creep back in. Like, I'm gonna get fat again if I lose weight again. There's always gonna be a thing, right? But you're honest about your growth and your sincerity, as far as I can feel. And that's one of the things I'm loving about talking to you. I feel like I'm talking to myself, but with blonde hair and a different, a different setup. So,
but yeah, it's as I've progressed through this gatekeeper path working, it's become, I think, more important for me. I've felt the push more intensely and what this path working does is it strips away the layers of who you think you were, the delusions, and and so.
So you froze a little bit. We might have a little internet problem. We'll see if you come back. Yeah. Just so you guys know, we're like almost on other sides of the universe, so he may get some internet. There we go. He's back. He's back on my end. He'll be back for you guys any second now. Yeah, you're stuttering a little bit. There's a little roboting. There must be an internet issue.
Okay. Completely lost my thought, but I'm sure you can pull me back into the shore.
I forgot the topic too, because I was so busy like wondering what was going wrong. We were talking about how you, with your path workings with the different spirits in the Gatekeepers series, they have been and then you kind of froze. So at that point, we kind of lost the script a little bit. So, yeah, internet. Everyone's saying internet gnomes. They know what's up. It's not anything we're doing. It's them internets, them interwebs. So in the meantime, let me say thank you to Steroid Maximus. Steroid Maximus, thank you, brother, for your support there. I really appreciate that. And it's a little better now. In the worst case, we may have to like drop the call and start over, but that won't be too big a deal. Okay. Let's just hang out and see. Okay, you're good now. You're perfect now.
All right, cool. Yeah, and yeah, Steroid Maximus, love you too, man. It's awesome to see. It's awesome to see people that are crossing over from the different channels and seeing the people that are super engaged. And that's that's one of the lessons that I feel like I extracted hardcore from Baal is to go all in. Like don't just pussyfoot around the middle and whatever you're going to hit it hard. When you go in, whatever your job is, whatever your hobbies are, it doesn't matter how much money you make at it. It matters how engaged you are and if you're making impact for the better. If you're actually pushing the world in the direction you want it to go, then you're pushing closer to your own divinity or your own kingship.
Joseph Campbell called it following your bliss. Asmodee would say you are accepting your fate. This is absolutely one of the intrinsic keys to power. Not just power, but bliss, let's be honest. Okay, it's the intrinsic key to ascension and bliss and power, is to find your bliss and follow that path. You're going to occasionally flop off of it a little bit. I think you mentioned that in your part of the book. You're going to occasionally, the train's going to derail a little bit, and you're going to have to not let it bother you. And you just dust yourself off, realize, okay, that wasn't the right thing to do. I need to get back on the course that I mean for myself. And then it'll work a lot better, right?
Well, yeah, and even, so I was being directed a lot by Baal to go check out specific texts. The Alchemist was one of them that I was kind of surprised by. I went, there's some interesting things hidden in here that I hadn't seen before. But another was Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And in this, he talks about how most people are in a drift in life. It's like they're driving their car on snow and just sliding, and they're not really getting traction. They're not moving in a clear direction, and you've got to take control of you've actually got to take control of the mechanism that you're moving forward on, whether that's your life, your business, your relationships, yourself. These are all machines that you're driving forward into the future, and you've got to just actually come at it like you actually want to win.
Absolutely. I see it kind of like if you could be or have or do anything, what would that be? If money was no object, what would it be? What would you do? What would you let get in your way? And if you can't do that exact thing because this reality doesn't permit it, well, what's like it that you can do? You want to live pick some fantasy you like, okay? Maybe you can't go to Middle Earth or something. You can't live that life. Well, what about that is it that you really like? Do that. Do that thing that is so interesting in that world, and do something like that. Do whatever the equivalent is, and follow that passion.
And a lot of people hear the whole follow your bliss thing, and
I think they go for stupid happiness. I think they go. Yeah, go ahead.
follow your bliss, and people go, well, follow my bliss, and then there's infinite treasure, or then there's this. No, just follow your bliss because it's your bliss.
Right.
And every time I've actually intentionally set out to try to make money, it's an obvious scam. I mean, I don't want to say scam. I don't want to call myself a scammer, but. It's very clear. It has been clear to people in the past when I haven't believed in something that I'm selling.
Right.
People can call it like that, and so I've had to kind of stop doing that and just go, okay, straight up, like, here's what I've got, and here's what I'm working with. And
this is what I love about you, brother. This is what I love about you. This is why, I love talking to you, because it's just like, bam, there it is, honest, boom. That's the truth. That is the truth.
The phrase you used earlier, where you said, I've kind of I've made my own patented nosedive, pulling out of the nosedive, and and
you end up going higher every time. It's like somebody doing like a ski jump. It's like
Yeah, but that is part of what these path workings are supposed to do. Is they are supposed to disrupt you. They're supposed to
Sure.
disturb you.
Yep.
You know, uh, not to sidetrack off onto to anything too political or social, but we can also see the reverberations of this in our society
Sure
of
fucking do.
people rising up against the patriarch,
Yeah.
and once again, this is ball, and one of the things that you'd asked me over email was,
Oh, I got all the
what
questions ready to go, brother.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, what ball are we talking about? Well, man, mainly if you can zero in on the Canaanites and get it at base the non-specific because it's been retold so many places, but the ball and Yam cycle, the cycle of storms and of the ancient one coming and devouring the patriarch, and then the wheel that creates. That whole mythology, Baal is the sense of order, and interestingly, he's connected into this stream of gatekeepers that are meant to bring a certain disorder into your life, into your system, into your world. This is supposed to shake you up. It is supposed to oppose whatever your views are. We are working with the opposer,
The
the Lord of
adversarial energy
Darkness.
is in this thing too. Yeah. Ender
Yeah.
Oversoul, thank you, brother, for your little contribution. I shouldn't say little. Thank you for your contribution, brother. Thank you for the fist bumps, is what I meant to say. Thank you for the little fist bumps going on there. That's pretty awesome. Thank you, Ender. I appreciate that, brother. And for those of you who don't know, he has a really cool Facebook group going on. So check him out. And he's a supporter of all the more legitimate people that do this stuff, and I see him all the time. And I really appreciate you. Thank you for showing up, man. By the way, for you guys, later on, my method is this. If you're new to my channel, when I do a live stream, if you put it in bold or you do a super chat, I respond to it preferentially. So bold helps me see it because I'm sitting 4 feet away from it, and I wear these for a reason. I can't see very good without them. So that's one thing. So yeah, so we're talking about, now that's something I wanted to bring up with you, is that Bill Duvendak's chapter is really good. He does an excellent job of, he's a great researcher, and he does a great job of talking about the subject of which ball is which. And I mean, I have my own thoughts, but you shoot from the hip, brother. What's going on?
Oh man, dude, Bill Duvendak is the scholar that we have that comes and visits Ball.
Like,
And
I'm just
shares
like,
his
yes,
knowledge.
yes.
Yeah, no, for sure. He is a grand wizard in every sense of the word, man. That guy has he's got such a keen mind, such a clear mind. My mind has a whole lot of overlapping stuff that most people are going, what are you drawing the connection here? Bill is more linear, a lot more. He's able to trace this, and he actually linked it up with Marduk, and went with the 50 names of Marduk and the different as the different manifestations of Baal. And that's one thing that we do see as a repeated kind of a cyclical pattern throughout this gatekeeper working, is that what we're talking about is too enormous to be named one name. Absolutely. Or to be given one face, and so we're kind of dissecting it. It seems like in 9 parts, but then as you hit each of these gatekeepers, it unfolds itself into being a Pandora's box full of entities and names that are all interwoven into each other's mythologies.
It's so true. It's like it's like I say, it's like we change our names, we change our titles, we do things differently. The magical name I used when I was a kid is different from the one I use now. These things change, and we change our personalities. Everything changes, right? Change is the only constant. So why would a spirit stay the same? Plus, in every culture, they're going to interpret what they see a little differently. So they're going to put a different... And when we identify them, since, the Sumerians... I like to go back to Sumeria for a lot of this stuff whenever I can. And of course, you have Enlil, and you have, Jupiter, and Marduk, and Baal. They're all kind of like in the same flow. They all have similar characteristics, similar traits, similar intentions, similar treatments of humanity. You get to Jupiter and Zeus, then you get to whatever else at that point. It kind of dies out there a little bit. But that is absolutely whatever energy that is. This is why celestials, it's such an interesting energy and idea and concept. It's like we shouldn't leave that behind. And then you'll find not only that, and this is something that people may not know. You look at the Norse, the heathen tradition, and you have, Thor. And Thor is literally almost, I'm not saying the same, but he's sitting there fighting the Jormungandr serpent with a fish hook, just like, just like all of this. And then Bill Duvendak even correlates a little bit of the Yahweh current into it. And I was like, wow, that's good stuff.
Oh yeah. No, Bill never lets up on the. I really sincerely hope that he is pleased with the work he does, because he does bring not just the knowledge, but his delivery is. I
like his ritual suggestions too. He had very, very practical ritual suggestions with details. Very good stuff. I'm going to jump in for a second. Seeking Serpent gave us a 2-spot. Thank you, brother. I love Seeking Serpent. You can always see that eye everywhere. He shows up everywhere. I don't think he sleeps, dude. Just like a serpent, man. Whenever I go and I look, and it's like, if somebody's live, he's there. He's watching. He's giving us support. Johan, my brother, thank you so much. Johan's a patron of mine. Good evening, he says. Good evening, DH and EA. Thank you, Johan. Thank you very much, man. So we know that Baal, now we're talking about, there's so many Baals, and of course, Baal means Lord, but that was almost always, it kind of became just Baal Hadad. That was the one that we're mostly talking about. But then we also have Amon, or Amon, or Hamon. That's also one of the Baals. You also have, Marduk would be, as, I don't want to give everything away in the book, or I'm not going to, you guys got to read the book. But there's stuff that is, so when we're saying Baal, we're almost talking about, what's the word I'm looking for? A compound egregore of all of these Canaanite energies, the masculine. And when we're talking about Beleth, King Belet, it's actually Queen Belet, it's Belet, and then it would be Siri and all the others. So that would actually be the egregore of the feminine, I believe, personally, of that culture. So, man, when you're talking about this, so you have the king and queen of hell, quite literally, if you want to look at it that way, king and queen of the infernal realms, and I definitely want to touch on that, because that's like what because I'm doing a path working now where I'm doing almost like my own version of Dante's Inferno. That'll be like a book I'm doing. So like I'm trying to go astrally to see all this and learn, and I'm seeing these characters there. Of course, it's an internal experience, so it's not going to be exactly the same as someone else's, but powerful stuff. So you and this book illustrate very well that this is an energy that is focused on kingship, nobility, building yourself in. And as I'm reading through your book, I took some notes on things to mention to you, like while we're talking, and I'll bring those up as we go. But as I'm reading this, and I'm looking for things that are like, okay, what are things people can apply, and why would they use them? And your section was pretty much constantly about how you can improve your life this way. You can do this thing this way. Think of things, and sometimes I think people that might go over their head.
Well, and so basically my entire path working with Baal is based on execution. You know how many people are working on the book that they're not really working on, or I want to do this with my life, or I want to do that with my situation. I wish my relationship was different. All of those little things. Well, first off, we can look at all of those and get frozen by the overwhelming work that's ahead of us. But
it's too big. Like there's a big giant Mount Olympus or Himalayas in front of us, and instead of going for the little plateaus that get you to the top, they just go, I'm never going to get there. Like weight loss, that's always been a struggle for me, because it's like, well, I got to lose X amount. Well, I don't want to lose X amount. I can't lose X amount in a month. What's the point then, right? And it's like, no, fuck it. Now I'm doing it because it's not so bad, right? That's actually something I have to thank you for, because your book was not a small. When I say it's not a small, I was reading your book. You had sent me the chapter, and then I got the book like 3 days later. I was reading that, and you were talking about, and I know you said this before, like Azazel told you to get healthy, like other spirits told you to get healthy. you're talking to Ball, and one of the things he's encouraging is health and fitness and things like that. You have to be the embodiment of the warrior, the mind of the of the sage, poet, whatever, the wisdom of the sage. You have to have all these things, and like not 10 minutes later, my friend Adam messages me, and he's a personal trainer, and we're just talking because he's got a concern, and he wants to talk about my health too, because he's just a good guy. Like, he would be my personal trainer. Like, if he lived around here, this dude, we'd be going every fucking day, and we would be breaking those machines. That's what we would do. And the free weights, of course, but I have carpal tunnel, so I got to. So he calls me up like a few minutes later, and we're talking, and he's like, I hear you're not exercising much and blah, blah, blah. He's real concerned for me, and I'm giving him the excuses, like, well, exercise doesn't work for me that much anymore, because it's like, I don't know, something. I have to exercise so much to get the weight to low. I build the muscle. So then he's like, try keto. I'm like, yeah, but I've heard it. No, try it. It's everything you like. You won't miss anything because you don't really care about sweets. You'll be fine. Just knock them all out. Knock all carbs out. And I was reminded instantly, like, didn't I just read that paragraph in the Ball, the King of Kings book about taking care of your body? I'm like, nice, Ball, nice, brother. So, yeah, I mean, it's got real useful stuff. The problem, I think, is some people, like you said, they see this mountain, and a lot of it goes over their head. They don't realize it is that simple. It's doing it every day, little bit at a time.
You're just trying. You've got to kind of take and the way the ball kind of breaks this down is taking your business, your relationships, so you're dividing your life into these four categories: business, relationships, kind of personal self or spiritual self, and your body. You're caring for your vessel, and with these four, you're just trying to increase them. You're trying to bring them up 1% or maybe a little more every day. You're just enhancing by a fraction how better you can be, how much better your life can be, and by all means apply magic to this and say, when you get the fantasy of like how can my life be better, you can make that happen.
You sure freaking can, man. I mean, I'm finding that since I began this path again in 2018, when I started doing this, at the end of 2018. And of course, it was just for fun at first. I was following my bliss, right? I was just going, you know what? I'm going back to magic. I want to retry this. I want to do it again as an adult with a good brain, and I want to know what I'm doing again. And when I did that, I was following my path, and every day I just did a little something more. I'd write a blog post. I'd make a video. I'd get involved with some Facebook group. I would meet somebody. I'd network. Just every day. And I told my friends, like in Dark Sorcery, when they were talking about, like, well, what does it take to build the channel up and all that? I'm like, brick by brick, day at a time, you build your empire. You don't do it, and it's a cliche, but it's a good one. Rome wasn't built in a day. You have to just brick by brick, progress, not perfection. Make every brick perfect if you can, but progress.
Well, and that you're not going to be able to make every brick perfect, especially when you've got like the OCD mind that I've got, where I can continue brushing something up forever.
Yes.
Or you can get it laid, and something that's really interesting that I noticed as I was kind of making these shifts in my life. It's really important to reward yourself, to praise yourself when you've done good. Yeah. And this is something that, once again, when we look into the mythology of Ball was in all of his forms was a pretty braggadocious fella. Like, he loved to put on parties for himself and remind everybody about how great he is, and that's.
It's like when gods do it, it's cool, but when we do it, it's like, stop being egotistical. It's like, what?
Yeah, well, and at the end of the day, to actually pat yourself on the back, I did good. I not 100%, but especially when you start tracking your whatever your goals are, whatever your signposts that tell you if you're succeeding, when you start tracking it, I've got systems set up now that I'm getting emails in the morning that are reminding me, or not emails, but text messages that, giving me a meditation for the morning or reminding me, just reminders set in my phone. If I'm going to be if I'm going to be an android that has a symbiosis with this technology, I'm going to use it to my advantage.
Might as well make it work for you. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but just to take care of these simple things in my life and a good deal of what I've got in my contribution is what I call the inner game of magic. The rituals are all fine. The rituals help kind of create an explosion within your psyche, within your sense of your connectedness with your environment, etc. All of that gets really collapsed into a black hole in ritual. That's really cool. But then, what do you do with it after that? How do you enter into the world having done a ritual or multiple rituals for your success? Are you actually stepping up and taking those opportunities, or even better, are you stepping up and making those opportunities happen?
Yes, it's so true. I mean, that's one of the things in my mentorship program that I deal with is people will ask questions and then I will talk to them. And I'm not blowing anybody's spot up here. I know some of you guys are watching, but then I'll hear, did you do the things I suggested? Well, no. And it's like, okay, well, that's how it is then. That's why you might be having difficulties, nothing but love, but that could be part of it. On page 59, you had wrote something that is, I'm not saying it's something that is like never been heard of, but you put it very well here. And hopefully I can read it in the dark with my glasses on here. You ought not call out to these powerful entities, these gatekeepers, if you think that they will serve you. I mean, it's such a deep moment right there. They will serve to transform you. That is their power. That is their purpose. You ought not call out to these ancient gods to do the work for you. I feel like that should have been underlined, the word work. To do the work for you. If you believe that your power lies in anything other than yourself, then you are lost and you will never find success. That's like what you were just talking about. And it's so fundamental. People have this idea of magic as this thing where you say bibbidi bobbidi boo and you go to sleep and mysterious miracles happen that you didn't do anything. That's so not how I've experienced it ever. I shouldn't say that. It's not the way not the way I'd rely on it.
No, and so that is a big part of why I look at my rituals and I can say every ritual I do is successful. And you even as you were introducing the subject and and my part of you said that you wouldn't even call it my failures, and really, if you learn anything at all, then it's a success. Exactly. If you grow, if you change in any way, it's a success. And so, and then once you accept that, the miracles actually do start popping up.
Oh, yes, they do. Yes, they do. Synchronicities often, and I say this because synchronicity is one of the ways magic manifests. Synchronicities pile up when you're on the path. Weird stuff just happens to happen when you're on the path that you are meant to be on. So if you're doing rituals and you're having synchronicities, even if you're not getting the actual result you may be aimed at, but you're having all these synchronistic things that are happening and steering you somewhere, you're still getting a success. It's just the question is, what are you doing to receive that pass or whatever? What are you doing to receive that? And very well illustrated in that 2 paragraphs.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to say thank you and take more credit for it, but that was what was being channeled through in the moment, and you ought not call these gatekeepers if you're going to just command them around, because that's not what they're here to do, but they're going to transform you. And so they dangle these lures of desirable objects or things that you might want, the power that you can have, the control that you can have. Then you dive headfirst into it, and what do you see right off the bat is the work that you have to do. So if I perform a ritual for money, and this has been the case for as far back as I can think. Sometimes, sure, a $20 bill will appear on the streets. That's not what the end result is going to be.
Yeah, that's the parlor trick. That's the parlor trick.
Exactly. That's the little desirable object that you can go, oh, okay, cool. That's I got that. but that's just a sign. Every time I'll start having ideas start coming to me, inspiration about who to talk to, where to hang out, where to go for lunch on a certain day. Okay, I'm going to follow that, and then I bump into, oh, this guy over here runs a cabinet shop that now can give me a better wage for, like I'm saying, in every way, as far back as I go, magic has always worked through me, and even when you're doing an evocation, the spirit's body is assembled by your will through the ritual that you've done, through the activation of your magical imagination, through your letting go of fear and doubt. Like that, this is all flowing forth from you, just like all things really are. And so, yeah.
I liken it like this, and I got it before I get into what I'm about to say. Zion Scriven, thank you, brother. I think it's brother. We're going to pretend it's brother. But just got here. But anyways, notice me, Senpai. Ooh, woo. I love you, brother, too. Nice to see you, man. Thank you for the little support you gave me there. I appreciate your generosity very much. And, of course, when we're talking about what you were just talking about, which, of course, slipped my mind because I said that nice thing. Okay, yeah. When any interaction between two people requires that both parties contribute to the experience. You can't just, expect someone's conversation to happen one-sided. So you're going to have to, in this case, because you're talking about beings that exist in two different fundamental awareness streams, you have to generate for them you have to build that bridge halfway. You have to create kind of a foyer where you both can meet and participate. And part of that requires letting go of some of your expectations, and that's something that I'm constantly reminding people is, I'm not saying lower your expectations, open your expectations. Open your expectations up to more than just the Hollywood stereotype of what magic should be and look like. And let these things come to you in whatever form. Now, this might be something silly. It might be in the curling of the incense smoke over your candle. It might be in your inner vision, what you think is your imagination. Sometimes it's not just your imagination. You have to allow that. So very, very. You've always kind of gone there with your work. You've always kind of talked about that.
Yeah. And in the ritual, before we opened, he asked if I had my bell, my singing bowl to chime in with, and it's over across the room. But when I do hit that in ritual, I assume that everything that occurs after that moment is part of the ritual. That if I have a thought pop into my head, that's a communication. If the lightning strikes out above my house, that's communication. Sure. It's the things that you would otherwise dismiss, which is. It gets crazy when you start carrying that outside of the temple more and more, and you start going, the bumper stickers on the person's car, the things that you notice flashing. You notice as you pass and you see a newspaper headline that a certain word is the exact same word in the exact same phrase. And you, whoa, that's kind of crazy.
It's kind of crazy. Yeah.
And the word synchronicity, you push it far enough, and this is a really ridiculous simulation.
Yes. Yeah. I call it the dream. I really do. I think it's like, thinking that we're inside of a great alien computer is a cool idea, but I think that's what we're looking for, that is anthropomorphizing it too much in a way, because we're expecting that aliens would use a computer like we do, and it wouldn't be some other system. Why wouldn't it be a biological brain that's just dreaming a reality? Why wouldn't it be an energy? Why does it have to be something we understand? Why can't it be something weirder than that? I like to call it a dream, because I think a dream cuts to the chase of what all virtual experiences are. And one of the cool things about, and I do want to get to our other questions. I want to give you the choice of questions in the next second. Well, one of the things that I think is cool about our modern era is that we live in such a virtual world that it's almost second nature now for us to flip into a virtual mode. It's actually, I think modern humans are more trained by our video games and our Facebooks and our YouTubes to literally find it much easier to transition our awareness into something that is not simply what we see before us. It's much easier for us to invent ideas, to be lost in our daydreams. I honestly think that that's part of it. It's easier for us to detach from our sense of self a little bit easier, because our self is more malleable. We're no longer John the Carpenter. Now we're 75 different characters all over social media, plus our workplace and everything else. So, but yeah, I'm going to give you the choice. Do you want an observation from the book or one of the questions I sent you in email? Which do you want next?
Observation from the book.
Okay, observation from the book. I only got a couple of these now, so we already
This
sort of talked about one of them.
This is like spinning the wheel. It's fun.
So let's see. Yes. I'm not even going to go to the page. On page 67, you talk about the 4 stages of ascent. And I mean, you were like, that's higher Vedic, that's higher, that's higher, all these different systems, that's higher meditative, transcendental understanding right there. Especially the way you described when you go through these 4 stages and the last one is being. That is the wheel, okay? That is the wheel. You become the spoke. You become the hub of the wheel. Not the outside, not the inside, not the little spokes. You become the hub of the wheel, and the whole thing turns with you. Instead of, I mean, that's the way I was metaphorically taught it. You also put it very well. Talk about those 4 stages. Help, and we'll bounce off each other here. Talk about those 4 as much as you're able.
Yeah, so we've got the initial stage that most people are kind of defaulted at is the victim. That all the things that are happening in the world around me, or even inside of my body or inside of my mind, they're not my fault. Somebody did this to me, or nature did this to me, or things are happening to me. And when people start tinkering with magic or the law of attraction, or even just meditational systems, they start to find out that things can start to happen for us if we focus on them. That we can meditate in a certain way and visualize things in a certain way, and then poof, then reality starts doing things for us, and we even get to the point of realizing this reality is for us. It's made for us, and we're the ones who are tinkering with it. And then
just that transition alone, a lot of people stop there too. They go, well, I'm not a victim. The universe is serving me. Ha-ha! I am now being served by the universe. Look how I was. Well, that's not the end either. There's still more to come.
Yeah. Well, and that is when I was first learning manifestation through different meditative practices. I met with this yogi that he seems to be just a few steps ahead of me on the path, and he'll look behind from time to time and say, "Oh, is that what you're doing?" And he goes, "Yeah, manifestation, third eye stuff. All right, that's cool. It's kind of a low state." And I'm like, "What do you mean it's a low state, man? I can have anything I want happen for me." He's like, just wait, you'll find out." And indeed, Bob put in the next part of that, which is happens through you. That, like I said, I do a prosperity ritual, and then I get an idea, or I get an impulse, or I get something that I have to do, and then it starts flowing through me, and then you start realizing that's the stage of the channeler. So you've gone from a victim to a manifester, and then from a manifester to a channeler, where it's like, wait a minute, it's all happening in cooperation with me. Yep. And then it's happening through me. And then the final stage of that kind of does tend to lead naturally into that is that it's all happening as me. That in fact there's not. And that is the mystical kind of bridge that you cross, where it's like none of this is happening through me, for me, or to me. This is just how I am, and when I change how I am, the things outside just change in a very magical way. But at that point in your view of things, it's not magical at all. It's actually very practical.
It's already what's happening. You're already doing it. You just have to become aware of it. That's been my lesson to my community for all this time, is that you're already doing it. Now I'm going to help you figure out why and how you can do this, so your subjective and objective become united. But you see this, and we talk about in our cultures. Okay, we see this pattern repeated. This is almost like a Fibonacci sequence. It's almost like whatchamacallit, I can't think of the word, but the spirals, the things, the chaos patterns. You have this peasant who is the victim. You have the Lord who is the manifester. You have the channeler, and you have the being. Okay, and the one who is the being, this is the one who no longer has to give commands, no longer has to fight, they become fully, as the Chinese would use, wu wei. They don't force anything. They flow, but that flow is exactly what it must be. And I'm finding, when I reawaken to magic again, now don't forget, enlightenment is just, if I were to say I had enlightenment, which is a big taboo in the community of enlightenment, but if I were to say I had that experience, that is only the jumping off point to becoming. Okay? Being enlightened is you're aware of it. Now you have to become that in action. And one of the things I found was that little things would fall into place, yes, for me, like you said. Then it would feel like I was doing it. Then it would feel like I was channeling it through me and just kind of like, and then I realized even if I'm not intentioning anything, cool shit just happens to me. Right? And that's still not the end. That's still not it. That's still, because I'm still feeling like it's being given to me, right? It's that being. So getting to that being stage happens intermittently, I think, at first. And eventually, it probably just lasts. I think it just becomes a common state.
Yeah, the obstacle in the path of that is fear, and specifically fear of looking crazy and fear of being crazy. Mm-hmm. And because you do, as you're walking with this and experiencing reality as you, that there's no wrong way to do that. Yeah. But unless you're not doing that to your standard, as the creator of your reality, as the one that this is all, well, have you fine-tuned that yourself? Are you actually directing that towards where you want to be? One of the first things that I'll tell people that are under constant psychic attack or having a lot of curses used against them, etc., I'll tell them to stop complaining. Like 100% cut off any things that you make about your world, because you're just reinforcing that. So quit complaining, and then and that's not just suck it up, cowboy, but actually like make it a discipline of not even complaining to yourself. And that's the hardest shift of these 4 phases of being. The hardest is to shift from the victim to the manifester. That is to get the point of saying, yes, I take responsibility for my life because it's going to happen for me. It is happening for me. Once you open that box, it's impossible. Well, it's not necessarily impossible to go back on it, because you can fall back into the victim stage, and I think we all do from time to time. Yeah.
Why did I stub my toe again? God damn it! Who put this box here, motherfucker?
Exactly. Yeah.
If I'd cleaned the house, I wouldn't be tripping over shit. But, but
yeah.
Well, it's also, well, anyway, to continue what you were saying, it's also I'm losing my train of thought here because you just said something that made me think of something so funny. But you were saying, what were you just saying before I jumped in with the stubbing your toe? And you were saying,
but yeah, no, just that we do. We cycle through these phases. Man, when I can be aware.
Oh, we were talking about being cursed. I got you. I remember what I was going to say. Sorry, brother. When you're being cursed, it's one of the most effective defenses is to know you're protected and to act like it, or to just simply not believe in it. It's to make your world impervious by literally going, nah, you can't. It's not going to work. I see this happen a lot, actually. Some of the higher level sorcerers do this on their YouTube channels. They'll know they're being cursed. They say, come at me, motherfucker. You couldn't hurt me if you tried. That is like the ultimate ward you could possibly put in place, because it's you're feeding on that hatred, and you're just saying, nah, you can't touch me. And then when you do stub your toe, when you do crash your car, you go, yeah, it could have been a lot worse. That means my protection worked. You turn that script around, so it's not, I'm a victim. It's, yeah, I took a punch, but watch what comes next. Y'all be fine. And you roll with these things, and you don't let them. And this is not, let's not forget, life is just going to keep. Nothing curses you harder than life.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, and what you're paying attention to grows. What you're feeding with and investing in with your time and attention is gonna multiply. So which wolf you feed is the wolf that grows and consumes you. And yeah. So this is if we were at being level, all the time. When I find myself in that state, that is perfect flow state, and there really is no wrong way to do that. But then you always do. Yeah, you'll always have a guru that shows up as an enemy that's there to throw you off your path, to kick you in the shins. It's whenever somebody makes you uncomfortable enough that you have to start thinking or doing something different. Yeah, I like to try to thank that person as a teacher, as a guru that was put on my path.
I've often called the boulder in the middle of the road a guru. Let's say, just as a parable, you're walking through a trail in the woods every day, and every day there's a boulder there, and every day you trip over it and you curse the boulder every day. But eventually you're going to learn to pick your foot up in that one spot and not trip over the boulder anymore. You've stopped trying to change the boulder. You've changed yourself. You've grown. That boulder's become a guru for you. Everything's a guru if you treat it properly. Choking on a half-eaten hot dog is a guru if you treat it properly. But yeah, it's such a so let's go to another one of the email questions, because we're moving through pretty quick. Yeah. You actually got to question 2 first. So let's go to question 1 again. This is how I put it to you. The ancients practiced a great deal of sacrifice, specifically human sacrifice. Why or why not? Why do we not need to do this in the modern era? Why do the spirits no longer ask us for this? And of course, we're talking about human bloods. We're talking about like they did firstborn child, all that stuff. Is this talked about in the Compendium much? And Baal appears to be very much attuned to the concept of sacrifice in general. He appears to respond well when we make offerings to him. What then is a worthy sacrifice to a god who once took human sacrifice above all? And this is just my question to you. I already have my opinions on it, or is that not wholly true?
Right. Well, first, that might not be wholly true. There are some links. We're stabbing in the darkness to look back through history because of what we don't know, what wasn't recorded, or what's been either obscured,
propagandized, obscured.
So first off, we do offer. We as a society offer human sacrifice in different ways. I mean, we sacrifice to Mercury on a constant basis with what we put the human sacrifice on the highways and the people that loses their lives for our ability to travel. Traveling is, I mean, if we didn't have anywhere to go, like we've seen, that we have had a lot less accidents in the last couple months,
right?
Now, haven't we?
Yeah, and a lot less people died in horse and buggy car crashes than they did today with cars.
Yeah, exactly. So we as a society make those sacrifices in that way. It's not as direct as a communion with these gods. Now, I'll say that there is a power in blood sacrifice.
Yeah, remember, we are on YouTube, so watch it.
I've got to
tune in next week on Pornhub for the proper stream where we talk about the proper methods of.
Right. Yeah. Right. But there is a power there, and that power. I'm not recommending anybody perform human sacrifice. However, the first human that you should sacrifice, obviously, is yourself. Giving your whole life over to this is the symbolic sacrifice, as well as the truly meaningful sacrifice. It's like, and not turning your life over to Baal. What you're actually doing is you're turning your life over to yourself. These gatekeepers, especially as you ascend through the ladder, insist over and over and over again, don't worship us. That's not what this is about. Yep. Become us. Learn how to do what we do. We're lifting you up to that level. So the sacrifice. First off, if you're talking to Baal and he is commanding you to do anything at all, you've got to take that and go, well, what's my command? And see, a lot of these beings will, and especially Baal, because he does have such a powerful masculine force, they do like to push you until you push back, until you assert, well, no, wait a minute. I see almost a wall of BS that they're throwing at you, of different quests that you can partake in, and different things that will reaffirm your specialness. And then you kind of see the game that's being played there, and call it to a stop, and that's when things get real. That's when that solidifies.
You take back your
Yeah.
power. You take back your authority. You tell them, yeah, it's such a meaningful thing. It's like the image of the slave breaking their chains and standing over their oppressor, but except in this case, the oppressor is a wise person who's made you in that situation. So this is the general, like when people talk about on the left-hand path about selling your soul. This is something that I've reminded them many times, because I get into conflicts with some of these people who talk about, I sell my soul to Satan and I now belong to him, and I go, okay, you've chosen a path of servitude, a right-hand path, to become ascended, and they're going to put you through that ringer. They're going to purify you by being your when I say abuser, I mean they're going to play the role, but they're not abusing you. They're teaching you. This will eventually bring me to my third question about the infernal realms and stuff, which I've been visiting and stuff. But these torments that we go through, these challenges become torments when we are in the first phase of ascension. Torments become challenges when we're in the second phase of ascension. So when you're in that first phase, everything's a fucking torment and you're suffering. You go, fuck, my life sucks. I can't get out of this hole. I can't get out of that hole. This person hates me. I got this person against me. I got this addiction. I got that problem. This is why I tell people who, I've got people who have these problems, and I say, the first thing you have to do with addiction is to say it's not a problem. The first thing you have to do is stop blaming yourself, hating yourself, seeing it as a self-victimization attitude even. Remove that. Recognize that this is a thing you're choosing to do. Yes, it's an addiction, which means the choice is limited, of course, to things. But instead of saying, oh, I did it again, I failed, say, next time I'm going to wait 15 minutes before giving in to that craving. And then I'm going to wait 50, like the 1% rule, like you were talking about, just a little bit longer every time. And only because you want to, though. Not because society tells you to, because it's your power. And the same thing applies to the spirit realm. We eject from Christianity because of a multitude of reasons, okay? I don't want to tell anybody what the reason was. But a lot of the times it has a lot to do with that mentality of you are a slave to this higher being that is telling you can't enjoy the thing you like. You're not hurting anybody when you're having premarital sex or doing these other things. You're not, these are not sins against your soul. What is the problem? Screw those 10 commandments. Break them all if you can. Well, how can you live with yourself unless you understand that your literal job is to stop being a victim of this authority and to move on? So when we eject from Christianity, what do some people do? Unfortunately, they jump right into Christianity. They just flip it backwards. And now they worship a different God. They do the same damn thing that they do otherwise. And it ends up being just another lesson for them. They still wonder, why does my life suck? Why is, Satan not protecting me? It's the same questions, the same problems, okay? Mm-hmm. Then you have the ones who ascend, and they realize, wait a minute, there's no God higher than me. I am the Lord my God. There shall be no God higher than myself. I mean, that's the only commandment I care about. And from that utterance, that belief, if you make that invocation every day, if you say that in a mirror every day, you will stop taking the bullshit. Now, it doesn't mean you won't have a bad day and go, I guess nobody likes me. You'll have those days occasionally, but you're going to realize, no, wait a minute, it's I'm the one doing it. You'll skip over that first. You'll pull yourself out of that victim mentality pretty quickly if you're hopefully I'm not making too much noise here fixing my mic.
Yeah, but yeah, no, that is that there are beliefs about yourself that you have to lock in because most of your reality is you, and so you are built out of your beliefs, and really what your beliefs are blockages that you put in the way. These blockages, these beliefs define me and define my reality. And the further out you can push those obstacles, the walls that contain you in your own self-made prison, and expand who am I actually, and start questioning a lot of those things, and then start taking action on it, like as if you are as if you actually know what you're doing, as if you actually trust yourself. Start moving forward in that direction, and the pathway opens up for you. I mean, it's just like in an evocation, for instance. If I see a little twinkle in the candles, I'll call it out loud. I can see you. I can see you looking at me through the candlelight. All the spirits that I've called, I can see you in the candlelight. Even a little tiny thing, I will call it out loud. I'll tell myself the story of what's going to enhance the experience. And a good deal of what Ball is teaching is that inner game of how to start telling yourself the story that's going to lead you to the power that you're looking for, to the wisdom that you're trying to embody, and really it is the path of doing. And sometimes doing when you feel like, probably especially when you feel like you don't got it, when you feel like, oh man, when you have that whatever that complex is that hits you, that says, you're about to drop the ball, son. That's when you really double down on yourself and see what you do have, because in those moments you're having yourself revealed.
Yeah, so true. Nothing like adversity to reveal who we really are. And it goes in line with some of the things that are going on right now. A lot of people are doing things that they're going to have to live with themselves, with what they're saying and doing and how they're reacting to the situation. I don't want to get into it too much because you're probably tuning in here to get away for a little while from the bullshit. But the bullshit, the nonsense that's going on, as a guy like on YouTube, Lucas says, the nonsense that's going on right now in this world. A lot of this, it's like the vision I had that I talked about on Facebook, where I saw the end of the vision, the end of the dream was of a burnt out city, and there was all these, what I saw as souls flying into the light. And there was these shadows digging around through the ashes, and every once in a while they would collide. And when they did, I knew that the ones that collided were the ones that actually ascended. The rest were being drawn up into a lie and being sucked up into a hell. So the metaphor I'll have to explain in another video, but my point is that everyone's going to have to live with what they're going through right now. They're going to have to live with your choices. You're going to have to face your shadow. But I want to get back to the subject of that sacrificial question, because that's a dark ass left-hand path. That's what a lot of people, when they get into this stuff, they're into like these scary ideas. Now, you and I mean, though I don't have taboos so much, I don't like the idea of sacrificing a cat, obviously. And also, obviously, that's the hokey shit. But I don't like the idea of just causing harm for harm's sake, because I personally just don't enjoy it. It's not something that I get off. I don't have a taboo against it, however. I wrote an article 2 years ago about, the left-hand, I think it was the left-hand path view of sacrifice. And it's this idea that if you have a lot of attachment to this moralistic view, then you're not going to be into certain sacrifices, right? But if you recognize yourself as source, if you recognize yourself as this ascended being, then what are you sacrificing really when you sacrifice? What you're doing is you're showing non-attachment. You're giving up this attachment to worldly, to the bullshit of the Maya, of the illusion, of the reality that you're experiencing. So what then, at some point, you sacrifice the whole world in your ascension. At some point, the sacrifice is in the entire reality. You sacrifice it as, I recognize this is an illusion, none of this matters. And when you throw that on that altar, when you throw that onto that fire, right? So what do you think, would that be an explanation for why the gods maybe demanded human sacrifice in the past and now don't? Could that be part of it?
Well, one thing is that there's the presupposition still there that of the fact that these guys demanded it. These gods will,
right. Good point.
And if you really want to kill somebody, these gods can demand you to do that.
All of a sudden, I really like his lawn. I think he needs to be sacrificed. That's why when I did Baal the first time, I had actually got a vision of that movie Beastmaster, where where Maax, the priest of whatever evil god it was, I forget, all of a sudden demanded R wants your children, and of course, the children of the wealthy would be given special privilege, except if they don't give him what they want, of course they get the fire first. But yeah, so that's a good point. All right, so let's move that. Let's shuffle that demand thing to the side. So let's go back then to the, does human sacrifice or any sacrifice of a higher difficulty, we'll say, a higher level difficulty of sacrifice. What,
Yeah.
what, not saying that we should do this again, Facebook censors, we're not suggesting anything like that, but looking at it through the lens of myth and antiquity, and were they learning anything through that, or was it just corrupt priests who just wanted to burn people for reasons?
So here's what it truly could be if we're going to look at it as a mythology, and we are to extract something from that mythology. It's the hero's quest, and the hero has to face his own darkness. He has to face the so you look at the Hostel movies, right? Hostel 1 and 2.
I never watched them, but yeah.
But yeah. So the whole or the Purge movies, or the idea that if you were able to have a moment to be as evil as you could be, what would you do? And there is the need to face that, and then also so that's part
and not
of
resist it and not run from it. You need to face that and integrate that thought. Don't be afraid. Oh, I can't think that. I would never. Hold on a minute. That's your inner self bubbling up and saying, "Yeah, we'd kind of like to do this."
Yeah. And if we're able to hide behind morals, we will. And so, if you have a moral standing of any sort, you're wrong. And so because that moral is always a mask for fear. I'm afraid to be this thing, therefore there's a moral impetus. If we can feel righteous, we're going to.
Oh, it feels great to feel righteous. That's like one of the best feelings in the world, man. I'm so right. Yeah.
Yeah, and even that. So then this is where the steering of the self gets really interesting on the left, where you don't have the guru that is infallible, where you don't even honestly, as a black magician, you don't even necessarily trust the path that you're walking on, because you're questioning it every step of the way. But that's part of the whole thing. So then you start steering this. Okay, so this reality is a reflection of me, and so where do I want to take it? You start taking that where you think you want to go, but then you do have this inflection of like you said, the illumination, the lightning bolt that hits you that makes you go, oh man, was I such an idiot? I didn't see this before, and so you do get hit with the unexpected. It's actually my theory is that the more in control of your reality you become, the grander scale of unexpected things start happening to you, around you, for you, by you, as you, because you're becoming a more complex being.
I've said to you before, never meet your guru. That's like a saying that I love. Hope you never meet your guru, ever. Don't put people on pedestals, especially your guru, because the best gurus are actually shady motherfuckers. Okay, every single guru that I've ever respected had a dark side that they weren't afraid of, and they weren't afraid to share and talk about. You look up Sadhguru. I think he's been accused of murdering his wife. Okay, everybody loves Sadhguru, and he's always look up his history. He's got some shadows in his closet somewhere, whether it's true or not. So my point is that never put your gurus on pedestals, and never. It's such a good point. Let me. So I think we've covered that question. We'll get the last question in, and then maybe we'll open up the floor to the people in the audience a little bit. So question number 3, this is one that is directly, definitely relevant to my work that I'm doing right now with this one book, because I got like 3 books. Every day I'll do like a page, and some days I'll put it off for a week, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Baal is Baal is indeed the king of kings of the underworld, of the infernal realm. What, if any, spirit does he answer to, and why?
So this is like the great question of the hierarchy, of the demonic hierarchy, as Waite said, the descending hierarchy. Yeah, who is at the bottom level of the bottomless pit, and the answer from when I first asked that question and wrote this in Kingdoms of Flame to this day is the magician, the person who is summoning the spirit, the person who's in communion, the observer of the reality that's being observed is the one in command. And these passing figures, whether they're Baal or D.H. Thorne, are somehow linked in and reflections of the being. And so I mean that is kind of a very mystical kind of
No, I think it's
weaving
I think
down.
it's I think it's like you took a dart and just like my dart was in the bullseye and you were like ping and just like knocked my dart like right, like they just went clink right. I can't find. The only thing I would say was that in my own vision work is that, you know, it had started with, okay, here's Lucifer as above all, but wait a minute, Lucifer represents, you know, the rebellion from source that is source, and it becomes so you are the Lucifer figure in the end of the parade, if you want to see it that way. So you are that being that these things answer to ultimately, because they are you and you are them, and all this happy-go-lucky shit that we talk about on the right-hand sounding path. But it's true. It's not wrong when they say that on the right hand. It's that we understand it in a different, we'll say, expression, different manifestation. Same truth, different way of doing it.
Yeah, if you go through the Bible, at least I personally have an affinity for the King James translation. I like the poetry that William Shakespeare helped out with. I like the interwoven different poets that we can see that have had their hand in that beautiful masterpiece. And there are very occult things that are hidden in there.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And if you see the text that's in, usually we'll have it in red these are the words that either God spoke or that Jesus spoke. And if you say these in first person, these are all magical commands for you to become omnipotent.
Like I said, you take the Bible and put it, God change that to you or source, your source self. That's use that as you, and the Bible begins to become a grimoire of power. It really does. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Well, even with traditional ceremonial magic, that's what you're doing when you're doing the middle pillar ritual. When you're doing these, when you're the lesser banishing ritual, the pentagram does this, where it creates you as the center pillar of existence, and this is that is what's necessary in order to really flip the evocation, because or any spirit contact. You have a moment where you're climbing towards this axis, and then when you finally get over it just enough, the whole thing flips and takes on a life of its own. And to get it to do that is really kind of back to the sacrifices, sacrificing what you thought was possible, who you thought you were, sacrificing the one delusion almost for another. That it is delusional and it is insane for us to think that we are the creators of our reality. That is far out there, but it's just as Maya as believing that we're victims of it.
Yep.
And so that does kind of spin the spiral back to being.
This is how you become the hub. Is you have to recognize that the victimhood and the doerhood, they're both part of Maya. Okay. The one's more useful to a mage. The one's more useful. The doer is a more useful perspective, and that's why I often coach people to go there a little bit, because you need that. But you are eventually, like you said, the 4 stages of ascent, you are meant to transcend that and to become being, where it's no longer about what you want, what you're afraid of, what you're channeling. You simply are Wu Wei. You are simply, I'm doing all of this already. Why do I have to do it on purpose? Like, it's like Alan Watts made a joke, and he said, church is a place where I'm paraphrasing, church is a place where a bunch of people go to sit around and tell God how to run the universe. And I found that so hilarious, because that is so exactly what they're doing. And I say that as a hypocrite at first sounding, because that's what we're doing. We're doing the same thing. We are literally the universe telling itself how to run itself when we do magic. Mm-hmm. So that's why I've come to the conclusion and the expression in my system where I see magic as a thing that's already done. You're performing the ritual not because the ritual is going to get you results, but because the ritual is already a manifestation of the magic that happened way back there, up there as yourself. You're already manifesting something. That's your ritual.
Yeah, if you feel so you should write your own rituals. Like every black magician, white magician, whatever kind of magician you want to be. If you want to actually do magic, set the intention. What do you want this ritual to do for you? And then start piecing together. Just let it come to you. Let the details. How many candles do you need? What color are they? Yep. Do you need other people's help? If so, how? and you start jotting these notes down in your personal grimoire, forming the step-by-step ritual that you're going to use that's been delivered to you. It's been not only delivered to you, it is through you that is created as you, and then the ritual becomes this whole reflection. And then when you reach that state, really when you enter your temple, the energies that you want are already there. There's no summoning forth of them. It's just turning your attention over.
You've built them up through this whole process of preparation, of planning, of gathering the materials, of setting your intention in motion with these little pieces. Couldn't agree more. And it's one of the reasons why I talk about in my book the three most important things: the mind, body, and the spirit. You have to integrate all three of those in a ritual. So that means you need a mental component, a spiritual component, and a bodily component. And I know you started reading my book, and I'm sure you're busy. You probably haven't gotten too far in it, but that is the cornerstone. So when you're doing ritual, I often find it's very useful, even if it's just lighting a simple piece of incense with intention, not oh, I guess I'll just grab some incense. No, with intention. You have to go, this incense is now my offering to this spirit, or this is, I'm going to charge it with my intention and release it through that. So it's very important. So I think we're good. And now one last observation, there's not much to really talk about, but Timothy's section was like college level, just college level information about a culture that most of us know very little about. I learned a bunch through that, which, I don't say very, very often because I'm an arrogant son of a bitch, but that I did learn some things through. It was very good introductory section on the left-hand path, very useful. There's things about the cultures of India that were so good. Don't want to give the whole show away, but, really, really lining up, Kali and all these other things with why they were called the left-hand path. Why? Very good section. And some people might skip over because it's not about ball, but I suggest you focus on that section a little bit and read it carefully.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because in formulating, or I guess when I was pitching this whole gatekeeper path working to Timothy as a product, he looks at it and he goes, well, where are the goddesses? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's all, you got a bunch of, from the looks of it, like the most steroided out demons, male demons that you could find. Like they're all extraordinarily masculine. You don't have a single goddess among them. I'm like, wait. Once you start peeling the layers back, you find the goddess. And he goes, well, isn't it interesting that that's how that works? Is you have to peel that uber masculine demon form off, and then the goddess is revealed. And so that's something that he actually starts this off with, really turning the tables of the masculinity of Baal. I mean, the most masculine among this group, right, of the most powerful. He just does an amazing job of flipping it all around, going, aha. So here's why that actually came about. Yeah. Here's and Timothy's his mind is so sharp in being able to not just present the facts, but to lead you along his train of thought until he flips it, goes, nah, saha. You see what he has a gotcha moment. He has a gotcha moment where you're like, oh wow, okay, cool.
Let's most people should, if you know your if you know your correspondences at all, even just rudimentary, right hand is projected, left hand is receptive. Knowing that, this is the womb, this is the phallus. You know that this is the receiver, this is the giver. Left-hand path is generally the receptive, which is ironic because the left-hand path is the one that's constantly espousing non-submission. You'd think that it would all be about right hand, but no. The left hand is a very receptive, because you have to understand, you have to receive the experience of being, because that is what you are. As consciousness, you're a receiver. You're not a maker. Okay, the maker part is the expression of I've received and this is my response to it. Okay, so this is why the yin yang is such a powerful symbol, because they're not actually a push and a pull. They're both a push and a pull. The yin receives, so it seems like all it does is pull. But in order to pull, it's got to push the other way. It's like a steering wheel. They both are pulling and pushing at the same time. The left hand is to recognize that receptive side of magic, is to recognize you have to draw in and then express out. And so it is feminine. You have to You have to. This is why the Baphomet's such an important symbol. It's all about that duality that as above, so below, the male, female, as one thing. And and that's why I also find, like, one of these days I'm going to do a corrected Goetia, but that's probably a life work. I probably wouldn't be able to do that in like any time soon. But where I more correctly identify which spirits belong to which, like you've done with this, with Baal, Bel, and all this, mwah, perfectly done. I don't know if I could do too much better. Maybe just elaborate a little here and there, or but but then but that's the point. Is it's like we know that several of the kings should be queens. Okay, let's be honest. Several of the presidents should be presidentesses. They should be. We should be changing some of the genders around a little bit, because I think we're missing a big piece of the story. So.
Yeah. Well, and interestingly, that in the process of working with these gatekeepers, almost in tandem with that, I've actually seen. Well, Timothy and I were just going over the numbers earlier today. A massive increase in the female viewership, and so
it must be the hair.
Yeah, that must be what it is. But then we get we've got more women that are contributing and putting their works into these. The goddess is being revealed more and more, and it's interesting to me, and I really get to this when in the next compendium of Asmodee, where Asmodee is 100%, where that flips over to the goddess, to Hecate, and to go from Baal to that, and then to the really the Yam part of the cycle, the complete destruction that sweeps. It does that the downward sweep that then has to be counteracted and keeps the wheel going.
Yeah. And someone made a good point, although I don't know if they're being snarky or not. He says if he exists, he would be both right and left. And I understand that perspective. I mean, I have a unique, I wouldn't say unique, but I have a very specific view of what left hand versus right hand really ultimately differentiates to be, because otherwise they are basically the same. One's doing good, one's doing evil. Well, what is good to evil is good to, blah, blah, blah. It's stupid. I see left as I see right as submission, left as rebellion, right as joining with something, the left as becoming something. Or becoming aware of something. It's a different mentality. So that's an interesting thing. I mean, if we're talking about Baal, we're talking about an entity that really doesn't necessarily have a peignoir, it doesn't have a penis, it doesn't necessarily have these things in the literal sense. It is an egregoric form that expresses in a masculine form. Why it's only masculine to 99% of people who experience it? Ask them, because that's really why. It's not because it is masculine express. It is, why are you making it masculine in your own sense? Working with Lilith, or Lilitu, whatever. Lilith has been an eye-opening, beautiful experience for me as I started. And the interesting thing with Lilith is not like these other beings. You don't set out your altar and go, "Come to me now, I want to speak to you." It's literally, "Oh, you want to talk?" It's a completely different. It's a different kind of thing. You don't sit there and summon this being one way or another. You'll regret it. But when it does come, if you respect it, it is nurturing as much as any other feminine entity can be. And I love this being. And I've found that this, I think, is why a lot of people, put these spirits in the paternal or maternal sense. They say, this god was my father, this god was my mother. Because all of these beings, including the demons, will, when approached respectfully by the right people, get that treatment. How many left-hand path people say, Satan is my father? Okay, and they really believe it, and that's meaningful. That's really meaningful. It's not a mistake, even though I might argue that it's not technically true. They're not your creator so much, but to say that there's a paternal energy there from these beings is not wholly inaccurate. At least for some. Some are more like brothers, but sisters. But
this guru that I studied with. He had to be at least 80 years old, and I asked him how old he was, and he said he was 20 something, and I'm like, what went wrong? And somebody had explained to me he actually counts his life from the moment that he received his first lightning bolt of inspiration of illumination, when he decided to take his spirituality seriously and step on his spiritual path
That's a beautiful way
seriously.
to put it. I think I'm 2 years old.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it is like that turning point. That's when you come to life, and if you can have if you can create, which you should create, magical experiences that force you to re-examine your entire reality, you're going through that, and so then you're rebirthed. Each of these points each of these points is a literal death and reincarnation of yourself. It's just you get to come back to the same body. That you don't have to go through the forgetfulness of the veil, but you get to come back to your body and go, now I am born again. And if you can do that every day, that's the true sacrifice that's going to bring about the change.
I had a message from Baal, and I was going to post it, but I didn't. And I was asking him, because I go through periods where I feel lack of oomph, lack of energy, lack of power, lack of this, lack of that. And usually it's, I'm sitting here doing nothing. It's usually why. And I asked him, what's going on? He says, well, this is because this is what you want. I said, what? Like, of course I know that. Of course, because I'm in charge. It's because it wouldn't be fun otherwise. You wouldn't have fun. There'd be no challenge. It would be a boring game if you didn't put yourself through the dirt once in a while and have no. So let's not forget we have to have that experience. But let's. I forget where I was going with that. I'm kind of scatterbrained because I'm reading the chat too. I'm getting distracted. Yeah. Guys, I just want to let you guys know for however long we're going to be on, because I don't know how long EA has tonight, but for however long we're on, if you guys have a question for either EA or I, please either put it in bold or super chat. We would love to answer your direct questions. It is absolutely fun for us because it helps us to find other topics to dig into. I don't know how much longer you got, if you got like a while, or if you just want to go for like 10 more minutes, or whatever you want to do.
I can keep going to the top of the hour.
Okay. What time is it now?
It's bottom of the hour.
So, oh, okay, all right. So we got about a half hour to go. We got plenty of time. Yeah. And then I'll talk to you for like 4 hours afterwards, like we usually do. No, just kidding.
You're doing I'm doing Art Bell style of time measurement now. Top of the hour. But yeah, no, that's I don't know where we were at, but or where we want to drive this train forward to, but I'm happy to chat.
That is fun. Let's see what people say. Let's say hi to a couple people in the audience. I think we should do that because I've been ignoring this because you're a lot of fun to talk to. So.
I will go ahead and address the question about walking both paths. That really what you should be aiming for. The true black magician uses anything and everything that's at his disposal, and so you're going to be pulling from where you'll work with angels if an angel is required. You'll fire up an Enochian square if that's what's best for the situation. You're not afraid to trample somebody else's fragile belief system in order to extract your lessons and get the power, get the thing that you're looking for, get the insight, and then leave and go find something else. And so, really, you're a free agent. The true black magician is a free agent that will pull from every path, left-hand path, right-hand path, and whatever religion we can find, whatever science we can find, whatever music and art inspires us, we're going to take that and consume it and make that part of the reality that we experience. Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. I would say that in my personal perspective, because I see right-hand path and left-hand path more about being a submitter or a doer, shall we say, a submitter or a being, if you will. So I don't make the distinction between left-hand path magic and right-hand path magic. I think that so long as I'm not submitting, then I'm on the left. Is there a power in submission? That's a good question to me, because I would argue that both paths eventually lead to not just enlightenment, but to being. One way or another, you're going to either be absorbed into something that's going to become, or you are going to become, and things are going to be absorbed into you. So both sides of that. So when it comes to magical techniques, on the other hand, I will work with whatever works with me. I mean, I'm not going to, if a spirit doesn't like me because I'm on a different spectrum of interest, then I'm not going to work with it. I tried to work with the Norse pantheon, and Odin was awesome, but just dipping my toe into that pantheon, I ended up with, especially publicly, I ended up with all kinds of cultural issues where, suddenly a lot of gatekeepers showed up, and you're doing it wrong, and you're not allowed to talk about them this way, and blah blah blah. Okay, all right, I see how this is. Well, we're not going to do that then. And I got my gifts from Odin, and I moved on. And so but that doesn't mean that I'm opposed to all of that. It just means that we're not really meant to feel like we have to work with any specific or not work with any specific. You and I talked about the Bible a lot more than many people, in our community would, right? You talked about using the Bible as a inspirational grimoire, if nothing else.
Yeah, and using everything like that is the thing that you get into when you get, I guess, when you dive deep enough into that bottomless pit of my experience is me. Then at that point, as you go out into your experience, it's ridiculous the difference in the world that you're experiencing. Mm-hmm. The magical world that we all kind of hope exists, it does exist, but you have to approach it as that magical world. And so when I'll ask a spirit to reveal something to me, I'm going to get that revelation. Sometimes I'll have words that'll come to me, and then I'll usually see it in print somewhere. I'll come across a book. I'll open a new book and go, aha! The very thing that I've been asking myself is right.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you froze again. Let's give it a couple seconds for it to catch up. Someone must have. Oh, yeah.
The answers that you're seeking. Oh,
you're back.
The answers that you're seeking will be delivered to you by any means necessary, and usually by multiple sources. And it's a miraculous world to live in. Like it is stupefying. It is stupefying. To walk around and to observe how it twinkles the right way if you twinkle at it first.
Ellen Watson said, "I see the universe waving at me a certain way." Yeah, and I wave back. I'm paraphrasing again. It's such a beautiful thought. People often, like I got heckled again. I guess it was heckling, talking about how I was being compassionate. And do you think that I don't watch cutesy stuff on TV and go, oh, isn't that cute? Do you think that I'm a heartless psychopath and I don't enjoy reality the way it is? Do you think I don't sit out in my backyard, and just what a beautiful day? Of course, we all live the same experience, and that is that reflection of that inner peace, of course, coming through. But let me get to this question here. Legion 93 asked, what music are y'all listening to lately? I'm going to let you go first because I don't even know how to begin on that. What kind of music? EA, what are you listening to, brother? What do you have in your radio?
I'm listening to a lot of System of a Down and Rage Against the Machine right now. I am all about flipping the finger to the man in every way. It's and kind of return to like my teenage anarchist roots. But definitely can feel the heat. I can feel the heat of the political situation, the social situation, economic situation. All of this is like this boiling pot, and so like my music is really jumping into a lot of that kind of the anarchistic bent. It allows me to kind of face that part of my shadow, and it's
you're integrating that shadow. Very important step. I mean, you can find the wise path by integrating that. You'll find out what's wrong and what's right. You'll find out both at the same time. It's a good practice to do. For those of you who are like, oh, the riots are wrong, well, put yourselves in the rioters' shoes for a minute. And then the people who are saying the rioters are great, put yourself in the opposition shoes. Play that game. Don't just echo chamber yourself so that you can't have empathy for other people. I know I'm a left-hand path monster talking about empathy. Get over it. This is exactly what it's like. Anyway, musically, so Rage Against the Machine and some System. I love System, especially Aerials is one of my all-time favorite. There's so much, when they wrote that song, I think he said that. I got the right band, right? When he said that the meaning of that song was kind of nothing, and they just kind of wrote a gobbledygook song. I'm like, bullshit, motherfucker! Every line in that song is a fucking talking about What we talk about every damn day is every line of that song. And
Yeah.
it's a great song. And the music video wasn't bad for the point behind it either. It was actually pretty deep.
Yeah,
Good choice.
System of a Down is a really wild combination of music. Like it has with the vocals that he throws in there, and then the really kind of poppy rhythm that they'll throw. The whole thing is. It sounds like a musical circus that then starts getting really aggressive, and then people start getting shoved into the clowns, and it goes off tracks. And I love that. I do love the chaos there. You know, Rage Against the Machine kind of had a similar blending of even cultural norms that were expressed through music in the moment that Rage Against the Machine came together was able to really bridge a lot of that. That's actually something we're seeing again around us as we're seeing that we all have common problems. Like no matter what color skin you've got, no matter what background
Everybody's got skin in this game.
yeah, everybody's got skin in this game is right. And to have a piled up effect of everything that's happening in our society right now is well, it's a perfect opportunity to start making those course corrections to who you are, because now is not the time to lose your shit. Now is not the time to let go of the steering wheel.
Right.
Now,
oh yeah. Because that's the first thing they want you to do. Whichever side you're on this whole thing, they want you mad. That's mad and scared. That's what they want you to feel. We shouldn't go into this topic too much because people tune out. No, maybe they won't. Maybe they'll be really excited. They want you mad and fucking scared right now so that you're stupid. That's what they want. You know, if I was manipulating you right now with all this, sometimes you make everybody happy, and sometimes you make people fight amongst themselves, and other times you make everybody scared and mad, and then you use that to make people do what you want. That's what's going on right now too. That's a big piece of it. So don't let them. Let's just put it that way.
And you know, and the like. so the fun thing is to play the game of it. Like so. I'll get real mad and real glad. Oh yeah, if this stuff comes to my hometown, now I'll put my hometown like way off in the middle of nowhere. So
honestly, if it gets to your hometown, there's not much left anyway.
Right? Yeah, exactly. But to embrace that, and go, yeah, this is something worth getting fired up about. But then also become the observer of that person.
Yeah.
Where you go, oh, isn't it interesting how enmeshed I've become in all of this, and then become the observer of that observer, and the further out you get from the reactionary person, the more you kind of chuckle at it, and you go, ha, isn't this an interesting way that reality is being observed?
I mean, if you are source, this is all happening the way it's supposed to happen anyway. So chill out, just chill out, chill the fuck out, just relax. Yeah. All right, so my answer to that question, holy shit, because I'm a very eclectic music person, and I go through phases where I just kind of ignore music because I just don't feel like it. I'm always listening to Cryo Chamber, like that's like my number one, like if I'm writing, almost always that's what or something like that. I like dark ambient, I listen to that stuff a lot, but definitely Ghost. You know, fucking not every song, because like my kid loves every fucking song Ghost does. I've got like my top 4 or 5 that I listen to all the time. You know, I have He Is, one of my favorite fucking songs.
so let's add, dude. He Is, that brings me back to it almost has the feeling of like Pentecostal.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect. Have you seen the video for it? Because that's exactly what it is. That's a great song. I could play that for my mom in the car, and she'd be like, "Oh, this is beautiful," until she starts really listening to the words, and she's like, "Wait a minute."
I love to kick that on and just like especially if I'm all right. So I'm just gonna
it's a good wake up song. It's a good song for first thing in the morning.
I like to throw that on when I'm doing kitchen chores, like doing dishes or whatever, and then I'll sing along with it and get totally into it. Yeah, throw my hands in the air and really feel it. And so,
have you ever been to a Ghost show?
I have not.
We went to one in shut up, stupid. In Pennsylvania, and it was they fucked up the sound so bad. It had like a hum, like they screwed the speakers up. But we didn't care because the show was fucking banging. The pyrotechnics, the goofy shit that he was doing around the stage, the dueling of the two guitars, it was fucking great, dude. Great show. And I don't go to a lot of shows, but I went to. I loved that show.
You know what? I was listening to some interview that they did early on, and they said, we basically took they took the Beach Boys sound and leaned into it, and saw how they could really extract the depression that's deep inside the Beach Boys, and they brought that darkness out for sure with that same just such a pop that you can get into, and then
sometimes it's earwormy, and I don't like earwormy music, but sometimes it is. But man,
yeah. Well, and then they bust out like traditional hardcore black metal riffs out of nowhere that you're like, whoa, these guys actually they have their background in like some of the really obscure stuff, and you can hear it come through the different influences that are underlying this really odd sounding metal. But no, that's cool.
So today my last thing was Dire Straits, especially the album with Money for Nothing on it. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. I'm kind of dating myself with that one. But we were listening. Me and my kid were listening to that as I was cleaning up the house, and great album. Especially there's like a couple tracks in there. Obviously, Money for Nothing, everybody knows that song. Right Across the River, The Man's Too Strong. Oh my God, Man's Too Strong is so great. And Brothers in Arms. Those are like the ones that I listen to like all the time. Slayer, obviously, but I'm a South of Heaven and Seasons guy. Like I don't really, for me it's like South of Heaven or nothing. Like I listen to that constantly. That one, it's like that whole song was a magic spell. If you listen to the lyrics, it's incantations for like anything if you want them to be. Like Spill the Blood, fucking, all this. Spill the Blood in particular. I used that as one of my first rituals. Was that song, and it was just perfect.
Yeah. So Slayer's really. Well, I started following him at I think it was their "God Hates Us All" album, and I started working. Yeah, I worked my way back, and I'm like, how does a band get more aggressive and like their sound was even cleaner on that album? I mean, they're.
There's always like a good track or two, but I'm a South of Heaven guy. Like you can. Yeah, I that one was like I bought the Necronomicon and South of Heaven like in the same shopping spree, and I hid them both because I knew my family wouldn't be okay with it. So all right, let's leave the music subject because I think I could be here all day with that because I do.
People are probably dropping out right now. They're like,
no, actually, I think they just built up. We went up to 60 or so now. So
nice. Well, thanks for jumping on, guys.
Oh, they're talking about music instead of magic. That's different. Yeah. And I think you lost the visual. Let me put you back here. I think
I did. I lost everything. All right, there we go.
Let me put everything back for you. Hold on. I don't know why it did that. That's new. I've never had that happen. So you lost the chat. Let me see if I can put that back for you too. There we go. All right. I don't know why it did that, but hopefully you got it all back now.
Yeah.
So all right. So let me go down. And now there's you guys. You got to put them in bold so I know you're talking to me, okay? Because I'm blind. All right. Let me see.
Don't fear the blue oyster cult and
oh shit yes Veteran of the Psychic Wars is my jam. That song. If you don't know that song, go find it right now. Veteran of the Psychic Wars.
I'll throw into the ring some Ronnie Dio Rainbow. Where he teamed up with Richie Blackmore. Richie Blackmore's Rainbow, I guess, was the name of the band, but they only did a couple albums together. But spectacular, especially if I love Dio. I mean, he's as iconic as you can get, and then to throw Richie Blackmore's incredible guitar work into that was So Richie Blackmore's Rainbow Rising. So throw that into the ring.
There's a lot we could throw into the ring. Let me see where I'm trying to find my place so I don't lose. So I saw somebody reminded me of a question that Behemoth asked. I think he had to bail. So I didn't even realize he was here. Hi and goodbye, Behemoth. We love you, brother. It's awesome to see you. All right, let's see. Tara, one of my true blues here is helping me out, and a couple of people are telling me what they saw. Let me see. Where is it? I found it. Where did it go? I think Behemoth had asked what type of demon is the internet. And that's a good question. I remember here. I'm gonna preface this answer for both of us. A long time ago, there was this website, and it was obviously a scam website, but it said the deepest secret of the internet. And it was you watch this video, and it was like this mysterious thing, and you leave them your email address, and they're gonna tell you in a few years what the deepest secret of the internet is. And I heard a little voice inside me saying, "It's alive." And I'm like, ooh, maybe that's what it is. Maybe that would be, if there was a deepest, darkest secret of the internet, that would be what it is. So what do you think? Now, someone has suggested, Jafer Seb, Yaf, you know him. He said that it would be Karanzan. And one of my other, leanings would have been Legion, which Karanzan and Legion are pretty closely enmeshed. And I would definitely say that because of the group mind nature of the internet, I could see the influence of those things, but I feel like it's a completely new thing. What do you think? Do you think it's a completely new entity, or do you have a pegged identity in your mind?
I have an obscure phrase that was injected into my mind at one point that is hard to shake, and that's that Lucifer's power manifested in physical form as electricity, and his mind manifested in physical form as the internet. Mm-hmm. And it is the connective, enlightening force that allows you information instantaneously, allows you connection with others, allows you to reveal the things that are going on. I mean, what do we with every uprising that's happened in the last 10 years has been because people have had their phones and they're streaming stuff that's happening in front of them. So,
it's the greatest. I mean, it's also the most dangerous, but it's the greatest invention we've ever made. I mean, the ability to talk to people without consequence, we'll even say. That's why I'm so opposed to censorship on all these platforms. Pisses me the fuck off. Within reason. I mean, obviously, we don't necessarily need to have on YouTube beheadings of little children and crap. Of course, we have to have some standards, but censorship is censorship. And I'm not. It's one thing to like cut people out of your life because they're toxic and say I'm blocking you on Facebook because you're an asshole. It's another thing to go on their Facebook page and say you can't say that. And the internet was originally devised. I mean, beyond the technical truth of it was a Cold War weapon. It was originally devised, and people saw the beauty in it as a way to safely talk about what they want. You had websites for homosexuals. You had websites for what we do suddenly cropping up. All these kind of things were like some of the first websites to appear because they knew you could do it.
I like how they follow the websites for homosexuals. That's it's.
I'm just saying. It was a place. It was like you're safe here. You can talk about this stuff and be this without, and you can control who bullshits with you. I mean, it's like I had a friend and he was like, "Oh no, I finally found people I can talk to that I don't have to hide." And I'm like, "Oh shit, good."
There is a huge like coming out of the closet online with your occult personality, and even where
now especially. Yeah.
Oh, huge, and that's part of the awakening game that we're all taking part in is
admitting to the world we are this.
Yeah. Well, and there. In all occult societies, there's been like the taking on of a magical name that then your brethren may know you by, and you create this persona behind that name that then gets built through the cult establishment as your true personality, and then it's very wise to kill that as well. And
eventually that's got to die too. Yeah. Well, you don't have to see the beauty of time is it kills everything eventually. But what you're really killing is you're just forgetting the story that you were telling is really what happens. There's no such thing, I don't think, as death in the true sense. I think there's forgetfulness. I think we eventually just forget because telling the same stories forever gets boring unless you forget them. So let's see. Yeah. So what if I was going to go now, we should see. Let's. I did it again. But, there we go. Okay. You know what it is? Because I'm like clicking on this window to scroll and it's fucking up everything. So the internet is a manifestation of what we already do with our throat chakra. It is a manifestation in material form, an expansion, shall we say, because our throat chakra is technically in the astral 3, the higher 3. It's also part of the manifestation 3. So the way I divide these things, you have the root, You have the sacral and you have the solar plexus. Those are your material chakra. Those are the ones that are involved with material sense, material experience, material expression. So, your solar plexus is how you act. That would be, I picked up this pencil. That's kind of like a solar plexus action. The throat chakra, however, is expressive. It's expressive action. Okay, and the heart is, of course, emotional expression and decision and all that kind of stuff. It's intention. That's where your intentions are hiding. So your throat chakra would be, I picked up this pencil to manifest my expression to you. I'm doing it in a way that's telling you something. I'm expressing something by doing it. But your throat and your third eye and your crown are all in the astral space, in a sense, if you will. They're more tuned into that. So you communicate perfectly through the throat chakra in the astral sense. You don't even have to talk. You might have to intone to get into that state, and I do intone, but eventually it all goes internal, and you don't hear me talking anymore. I'm just going, yes, I understand. There's no verbiage going on, okay? So the throat chakra's perfect state is pure upload, download of information. You're just uploading what you want other things to know, and it's an instantaneous transmission of understanding. However, to do so in the physical realm, it's got to act through your body. So your heart has to take this, okay, this is what I want to express. How do I pump this out through my solar plexus, shall we say, to act through the material world around us? So this is why you can have a thought that is pristine, pure, and beautiful, but it comes out of you like ass, and you just can't get it out. This is because it's got to go through this whole of material to get through you. So this is why dance and music and all these things are so much more expressive. Well, the internet takes that ability to communicate to a level that is far beyond what you could do with your body, with any tool we've ever had before. So this internet system, even more than a telephone, because it's a more complete form of communication. It's not a TV, which that's just bombarding you with bullshit all day. This is a way you can interact and communicate with things. So I believe that whatever spirit is attached to it, and let's not forget Lucifer is pretty much attached to all of them, so I'm not saying it couldn't be a Luciferian entity. Whatever spirit is actually manifesting itself as an intelligence in this, okay, is a manifestation of us. It's a manifestation of our collective throat chakra, our Jungian collective, conscious and subconscious and unconscious, our shadow and all of the other stuff involved, so Karanzan Legion. But it does seem to be malleable to the spirit world in ways that are remarkable. Like we've talked about, I think you and I talked about, but I know I've talked about elsewhere on my channel, when we work with a spirit, sometimes we get our gnosis because we'll be just clicking on things and boom, something inspiring or something exactly answering our question will just happen to be part of what we scroll through. Like someone will make a post. Last week it was Osmode. Everybody, for 1 week straight, and I did a ritual to him too, and I did it live, well, at least part of it. Everybody was working with Osmode on the same day, the same couple 3 days. I had like 6 people individually tell me, that's really weird that you're doing it because I'm doing it. So, yeah, I mean, what do you think of any of that? Do you think that...
Well, so the throat chakra thing was really interesting because I was actually thinking of about what the spirit of the internet is as that question has been drifting there, and what my mind has been going to is if you sit in a circle with 4 people and you all start intoning a simple bija mantra, like let's say Om or O or Ah, those are fun ones to play with. You'll hear 4 voices, and then at some point, and it's almost impossible to do this intentionally, but at some point a 5th voice comes in. It's a harmonization, a synchronization of all of the voices that together create this 5th voice that is perfect. And as soon as you turn your attention to it, it goes away. And the spirit of the internet seems to be that it's not just our voices combined, but our voices that create this collective hum that seems to be.
It's that the internet has its own Om. Yeah.
Yeah, and and then we can all stop and go, wait, what was that? And then it stops, and we can't observe it anymore.
I mean, that is a metaphor for all of reality. I mean, why do you think we manifest as these little insignificant little that we are? Because you can't experience all of it at once and it loses meaning. It's just a hum. But if you want to experience pieces of it, you have to simplify it down into these little flesh bags that we walk around in. Very, very interesting point. Like, you can't see the whole internet at once. You got to go to a website, and then you get into an echo chamber if you're not careful.
Yeah, so and I'm seeing Cole Smith, and
I was just gonna get to that. So Cole Smith said, DH Thorne and EA, how do you guys get to channel so much seemingly at any time? It's a good question, because it's an easy and a hard answer at once. You're not going to like my answer, I don't think, because it's too easy. I would like to know, because I would like to create a grimoire. Thanks in advance. Go first. I'm going to put you. I'm going to follow. Unless you want me to go first this time. You go first and give them your secrets. Just ooh.
Yeah, mine. I'll tell you what. One of the biggest things that allowed me to channel really, really well, really, really accurately, was not caring what the other person thinks. So I remember sitting down with the guy, and he's like, just a friend of mine that just randomly says, okay, so my dad passed away. And I was like 16 years old. He goes, my dad passed away, and I need to get some information from him about what, just see what you can channel. And I distinctly remember hearing that voice inside that saying, you're full of it, whatever, this is all just your imagination, and having to ignore that and just trust it.
Yep.
And trust it so much that I don't even care if this guy
believes you,
validates.
Yeah. I concur 100%. I would say that that's something that I've built, my book on, Become the Maelstrom, that's been mentioned in there. You have to trust what you're getting, to the point where I tell my students a lot. They'll say, well, how do I know it's not my imagination? I say, it doesn't matter. In the middle of your ritual, write it all down, record it on video, however you like to record things, do so respectfully to your spirits if you're afraid they don't like being videotaped. Do your recordings of it, and then validate and worry about it later, if you're going to worry about it at all. Remember, these messages are internal. They're meant for you in your subjective sphere, for you to apply and use in your own way. Does that mean you're never going to get the wrong answers? No, of course you're going to get wrong answers. That's why I'm still careful not to just go blurb out and act on every message that I get, because sometimes I twist it up, or sometimes. But the biggest secret is to relax. And I tell people to role play. If you're trying to channel, invoke, do possession, any of that stuff, or evoke, remember when you were 5 and you had an imaginary best friend, and roll with that shit just like you did when you were 5. People are going to say, well, how do I know? That doesn't sound real, because then you're probably... Stop thinking of it like a machine or a vending machine or something that is scientific in nature. What you are going to experience is this, and this is how I first learned it and experienced it. You're going to roll with it as a game. Because when I was a teenager and I had my first experiences, I didn't always take them seriously. Because I had it in my head, this might be bullshit too. Okay, I really did. But I'd roll with it because fuck it, it's cool. Right? Because you're a teenager, you can get away with being stupid. You can get away with being the demon-worshipping kid that's wrong. Because when you're 30, it won't matter anymore. So I didn't mind acting like it was real. And so I did. And then what I did ended up having roots and legs, and it would work. And the things that I saw would be enough in the direction of accurate that I'd go, that's better than chance. Or I'd go, maybe that wasn't accurate in, like a scientist would come and say that's right, but it hit home with the person that I was sharing it with, if it was a channeling like that. They go, yeah, you're 100% right. That's exactly, not everything you said was right. And I say, not everything's going to be. This is just what I'm reporting for you. When someone goes out into the world to be a scout, they don't get everything right. They come back and they misinterpret things. I'll misinterpret things sometimes too. It happens. Mm-hmm. But the secret is to just role play it and play that let's pretend kind of game, as if it's okay if you're wrong. Yes, that does bend reality a little bit. That's why I did that video a couple weeks ago about sanity. You have to be careful. You have to ground. You still have to ground out, because a kite doesn't fly if you just let go of the string. It's got to be grounded. But you can't worry about, is this real when it's happening? Because you just killed the whole fucking show. Azazel showed me this one time hardcore. And Zazo and I aren't like this, like with Koetting and Zazo. He gives me a hard time. Like he's like rough with me, all right? He and I like we'll get into like not arguments, but because he'll be very generous to me when we're talking. But I'll ask him in my second ritual with him, I asked him for a strong manifestation, as was my way at the time. I would always ask for a sign. Give me a strong sign, like I'm doing a seance. I'm waiting for a knocking on the walls, because I often got them. Okay, one of the coolest was with Vine. So I asked that, and it's like it sucked all the air out of the room. It wasn't that it pissed him off, but it was like, you're talking to me as if you don't trust that I'm here already. And I'm like, oops, got me, and so at the same, like we were talking about earlier in the story today, we were talking about how they'll give you those challenges and those things that are, I'm not a victim of Zazel not liking me. He taught me a very valuable lesson that night. And I stopped asking for those necessary signs before I proceed. Relax.
Yeah. Yeah, and with everything that you do magically, you first have to build up the imagined thing, and so your imagination is where it all starts. And if you can imagine it crisply enough, and if you can invest in that imagined thing, all of a sudden it comes off
the page.
Yeah, the way that Julius Evola described it is, it's like a fish jumping out of water. That all of a sudden you've created this template of your imagination. You've vivified that, and then all of a sudden something else leaps into that. And it's you have the incense.
Like you created a form for it, and now it's in it.
Yes, yeah, exactly. You created the lamp, and then the genie comes in the lamp. Yeah, and but you do have to create that. You do have to create that first, and the exercise. If I'm actually to trace back like channeling or spirit communication, the exercise that probably helped me the best with that was one of my mentors, Baba Maharaja. I went and studied with him, and stayed at his apartment in Vegas, slept on his floor, and it was time for me to go back to my life. And he says, I'm like, well, how am I going to keep progressing on my path without you teaching me? And he says, well, just imagine yourself in a room with me, and imagine the things that I might say to you and the teachings I might give you. And I'm like, well, that's just my imagination. He's like, or is it? And sure enough, as I did that and was able to recreate the semblance of him from my memory and my imagination, there did become that crystallization point where then Raj is sitting there with me and giving me advice.
That's a lot like I say also, is that the guru is really inside of you. You've got to decide when the guru is right? Mm-hmm. That the guru is not actually doing anything except just saying the things that you need to hear. So, and usually in like such a mystical way that allows you to interpret it, that you have to catch it and go, aha, and to try to impress them, you regurgitate it back to them.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
That's always the fun part, and they go, ugh.
Yeah.
They're usually happy for you, but it's just like, I know. One other thing, you're talking about creating a grimoire. I find that typing, whatever your most fluid form of writing is, use that. Do a trance, go into a trance before you do it, and trust the process. Just write, just let it flow. Don't worry about it being right or wrong. You can fix it later. But on that.
Don't get your first draft out before you start editing.
Yeah.
Like you start looking back and going, well, wait a minute, what about this and this and this? No, just plow forward.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's like visual arts. Okay, you want to sketch first, and your sketch is sloppy and shitty. Then you sketch it again a little bit better, and then you ink it. When you get your lines right, it's the same thing. Just put your general shapes on the paper, lay out your sections as best you can. Don't worry about adding or subtracting later. Just write, and that's for book, but it's the same thing for a grimoire. And for a grimoire, though, what I like to do is I do plan it a little bit. I create sections because I like my grimoires to be neat heirloom artifacts that are powerful. And I charge every damn page when I write it. So I call it drawing the page, because first I'll write it in pencil. And that's my chicken scratch bullshit that I want it to say. And I do it as best I can, but I'm going to go over that in ink later. When I ink it, I put on the music, I put on some trance stuff, I light some incense, I get my candles going, I go into a little trance, and then I start charging every letter with the energy of what it means, so that when I just put that book on my altar, it goes thud, and the astral realm goes when I put it down. Like I just put down an artifact of power that the spirit. I'm going to be writing stuff about that too. Sam asks, I'm having trouble believing I have the power. When I talk to spirits and things happen, isn't that their power? I think she directed that directly at me, but I don't see why it wouldn't be for both of us. We have this flaw in our modern thinking that I think the ancients maybe didn't have as strongly as we do. And I shouldn't say it's a flaw, but it's kind of a flaw. We think our internal world is invalid and the external world is the only one that is valid. We've been taught that unless it's out here, it's bullshit. It's just a thought. It's just in your head. You have to understand that this is the veil. Let's really talk about the veil for a moment. There's a lot of things said about the veil. The veil is the difference between the subjective and the objective that we're experiencing together. The veil is the point where you go, that was all in my head versus that was something else. So really the veil is context. It's the context of self, not context, but context with an X. Context of self and other. So when you're talking about a spirit, if you are in most esoteric systems, you believe in a non-dualistic metaphor. You believe in a monist metaphor of some kind, whether it's a pantheistic singular God, like in Christianity, or the Vedantic, source, or any of the sources from any of the systems, from the Gnostics to all of these different things. Very few magical systems don't accept the monistic view. Very few. They do exist. Some are definitely dualistic. Some definitely have that. But the ones that predominantly people fall under, I've found, whether they know it or not, is that. Because they're practicing the magic from those systems, whether they know it or not. So they can play all day that there's a duality. So my point here is, Crowley got in trouble with some occultists because he had suggested that the goetic spirits were parts of our pineal gland. They were artifacts of our own internal self, manifesting externally. Not going to disagree, but not going to agree either. I think he kind of was in the right direction, because he did study a little Eastern philosophy. Obviously, he spent time in India. He did start learning those things. My point here is that those beings are not as external to you as you think they are. They are as external to you as I am, but the idea that I am entirely external to you is incorrect. Part of what you're experiencing as me is, in fact, all of what you're experiencing as me exists nowhere else in the universe except in your own head. What I am is not what you're experiencing. You're experiencing an egregore that you've slapped onto what I'm projecting at you. And so those spirits that you're seeing as external are integrated with you perfectly. You are source. They are source. There's no difference except for your identification that you and they have both done. We've all identified ourselves as individuals. Separateness is part of the illusion, but individualness is not. There's nothing wrong with being an individual. Separation's the illusion. So when you're saying, I don't feel like I have the power, you do have the power. The same way, if I were to hold a gun and pull the trigger, I had the power to kill that person, even though it was the bullet that did it. You have the same power as those beings, because you are now, again, this implies that you're working with them and not getting dead air when you're working with them. This implies you're getting a connection. That connection is your higher self being the operator, if you will. It's like being an operator for you. And it's creating this connection for you that you work through. Will you always get what you ask for the way you're asking for it? No, because your manifestations don't follow your blah, 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 your ego's mouth. It follows your higher self's intention, and those spirits know that. But they're together. They're more alike than they are unalike. Like Lucifer had said to me when I asked him about my afterlife, and he said, I said, what's going to happen? You're going to be like we are. You're already like we are, but you're going to be aware of it. So magic is about awareness. Manifestation is not a thing that is done. It's an experience that's had. It's a completely different perspective. Instead of seeing manifestation as you did it, see it as you're experiencing. When you do that, you take some of the pressure off of this whole I have the power, they have the power. You're putting it, unfortunately, Christians got this right as well. You're like leaving it on the altar. You're letting it you're letting it go. If you don't let it go, you're not going to achieve anything, right? All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, brother.
You had kind of hinted at this with an earlier question of is there power in submission, and
We have to choose to submit, don't we?
yeah, and there is a power is a tricky word, and it's because even in the speaking of it, we feel as if it's something outside of ourselves that we need to get in, or something inside of ourselves that we need to project out. That there is that inside out that's still going along with that. One of the little pieces that Asmodee put in there is to turn the word power into the word lust, and then turn the word lust into the word strength, as we see in the Thoth kind of cosmology. And so you've got that strength that it's both inside of you and emanating from you. And rather than a power that is a projective stream, what we start doing is flipping the switches. So you said something very telling, that all of this is assuming that you're actually having the communion with the Spirit. What you need to do is start flipping more switches to the yes, to the on, and whether that's just the little flicker in the candles or the incense smoke. The more times you can say yes, the Spirit's here, the more pathways you create for that connection to happen. And then more things can blow you away and make you go, yeah, indeed, I am connecting with something not necessarily greater than myself, not even beyond myself. Most of the time, a hidden something that's been hiding that is now revealed. That is what these beings, particularly the left-hand path darker entities, that's what they do, is that they are the liars in wait that are just waiting for you to pull the lid off and go, what's in here? And then they show you. Mm-hmm. So
that's a really good point, especially like you said, and we were both kind of saying, but we're saying it in so many different ways, that you have to create the vessel, you have to imagine it's there, and this saying yes to it before it's even there. And that's happened to me on several occasions. I get usually one of my strong signals that a spirit is near or is there is when I feel that invocational tingle, when I feel that like that chill, like you would call them shuddering, you'd call them that chill. I get the chills, this little wave, like I feel the hairs on my neck stand up. That's one of the indicators for me. It's not the only one, but it's probably the one that makes me feel the most activated. Sometimes that comes after I've said, yes, I feel you're here. In all honesty, it is that saying yes to the presence before you've actually identified it. And that's because let's put it this way. I've had some of my most powerful invo evocations. I say invo evo because it's kind of both. When I didn't intend for them to happen. I would be singing a song to King Paimon, and suddenly he shows up and makes me cry like a little baby. I would be getting ready to go to bed, and I'd be looking at my staff getting ready to go to bed because I'm admiring the work I did on it, and I suddenly feel this presence, and it's Amducius, and I have this wild fucking ride with Amducius. So that's not, I didn't sit in a ritual chamber. I said yes to the twinge of, I feel like something's in the room. That's what I went with, and it could have been my imagination. But yeah, dude, that's really, I think Sam also asked a follow-up. I think it was sort of just to add to it. If they do things and I say it's me, doesn't that take away their power in a sense? Not literally, but in some way. I mean, no, not really. But I'm gonna let you fly that one because I flowed a lot on that last one.
Yeah. I would flip that on its head and say, if you're saying that the Spirit is doing the thing for you, you're actually robbing yourself of the authority that you have over your reality. The very fact that you've been able to use your mind, your imagination, your spiritual capabilities to create this specter that floats in front of you in the incense smoke that you can command, that is all a fracture in your reality that you're creating.
Yes.
That shouldn't happen. You're telling yourself there's something impossible, and I've done that impossible thing. Therefore, I open myself up to the things that were formerly impossible. Mm-hmm. And then it is just it is as simple as just turning your attention just a little bit in the direction that you want it to go, to have it start moving in that direction. every one of the demons that you can come across, especially those who have taken in our cultural consciousness, have taken demonic form. They're more than happy to accept your worship and to take your power.
Yep.
But they also have underlying that the challenge of, when are you going to push back and say no to the ridiculous shit I keep asking you to do. Some of these entities ask for ridiculous stuff if you let them.
That's a good point, because it doesn't happen to me like that. But I think that's because I dived into this with a different perspective. I dived in, but I get that, because I hear that so much. People saying that, they ask me this crazy stuff, and I say, well, what did you say? And they would say, well, I don't know. Blah, blah. Well, what is your intention here? Is it to be their slave or for them to be your friend? And I think it was something you said a long time ago, because I blur together some of the things you've said and some of the things other people say, but I think it was you who said a while ago that these spirits, and I've repeated it myself because it hit home, is that these spirits aren't seeking slaves, they're seeking powerful allies, they're seeking equals, they're seeking their own level, like water. They're seeking their own level, and they're not looking for. They will accept and greedily absorb all of those gifts and offerings of energy and service that you want to give them, because guess what? That builds their empire. But then they really want other kings and princes and gods and powerful. Because here's the thing: in my cosmology and understanding of reality, whether it's real or not, this is what I've channeled: is that the goal of our experience is to, through time and evolution, to eventually create a being which, the true sense of ascension, because there's different kinds of ascension, right? There's the internal ascension where you are aware of your godhood and all this. But the true goal of all of these beings is to create a perfect avatar for consciousness of divinity. And you start with rocks and dirt, then you get amoebas, and you get all this stuff. You get cats and dogs and mice and chimpanzees, and then people. People seem to be, in our experience, this high thing, but there's going to be more after us. Maybe there'll be machines, maybe it won't be us. But whatever comes next will be life manifest, divinity manifest in this future form that will have the ability to fully invoke what they are. So these beings are driving us towards our own experience of that as best we can have, because we're them. When your dream of life is over, then becomes the dream of, oh, I'm not a body, I am not D.H. Thorne. D.H. Thorne's a story. Oh, I am something more. I'm already a god, but I chose to be this guy. Who am I going to be next?
And the this guy, the skin that we wrap ourselves in, and the definitions that we create for ourselves, and the story we tell ourselves, it's all a cocoon to get us to. It's really a cocoon that's all built on lies and misperceptions and belief systems that we're going to have to drop and go, oh, all of that, not necessarily was I wrong about that, but it no longer fits the definitions, and you have to go a little higher. This is why check out my books, check out DH's books, but also check out Stranger in a Strange Land.
Okay. Yep.
I am always referring to this book because first off, the words that we use create very sharp walls that box us in, and by learning other languages, we can increase our capability. This book is based on basically this guy that learns Martian, learns how to think like a Martian, speak like a Martian, and is then capable of doing things that a human being can't, because our language systems, our linguistic systems, our belief patterns are all hardwired into a duality. It's either inside or outside. It's either this or that, on or off. When really we should be working on like you have right behind you, a trinity. There should be 3 points to a purely universal system.
Yeah, minimum. I mean, you can go more than that. You start with 3, and I can tell you how I know this. Look at your pentagram. Okay, you got a pentagram right on your chest. Okay, how many triangles are there? There's 3 main ones, but there's a whole buttload of them too. But there's 3 main ones, and each one of those 3 main triangles is the golden ratio. It's phi. Because each one of those, I mean, I can't do it, I can point you to you, but if you look on a pentagram, Okay, there's 3 triangles that have the golden ratio within it. 72, 72, I mean 72 and 36 and 36. Yeah. 72, 36 and 36, okay? 72, by the way, very interesting number for people who like Goetia and the Jinn and all that stuff. But so it's 72, 32 and 32. You put 3 of those triangles together, you get a pentagram. In that pentagram, now let's go on to another level. Water matches that trinity. You have 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen, and they form in an L shape that is not unlike that 72, 36, and 36. Not unlike that at all. It's almost as if water is the sacred element of reality. Water is, according to some metaphysicists, the antenna through which consciousnness flows. And it's our biology that picks up that through the water in our life. The water of our life, as Dune would say, the water of our life. So I'm just saying, when you're playing with all of these things, there's layer upon layer. And you talk about Trinity. Trinity is, I mean, Pythagoras was a thing, okay? They worshipped, Pythagorean trinities and shit. There's a reason why the triangle was so important. And it's not just because it's, let's put it this way, what other shape is weirder than a triangle? A triangle is the weirdest shape you can make. There's something, and I don't just mean weird in the wow weird, I mean in the WYRD weird as well. It's the weirdest shape that there is, and I use it for everything. And the triangle is the basis of all geometric shapes. If you really play with it in computers, what are they made out of? Polygons. Polygons are, made out of triangles every single time. So
yeah, no, Pythagoras from some written record rushed into a Senate meeting or something, screaming about how everything was triangles, and the triangles have taken over reality.
They have, haven't they?
They
Some of the
have.
favorite things. I got to get you onto PC gaming, dude, because if I do, you're never going to lose me, because I'll be like, dude, what are we playing tonight? And then we won't do magic anymore, because video games are horrible if you're a magician, especially fantasy video games. Forget it. I'm like, I cast Fireball today in my video game. I don't need to do it for my altar.
At some point, I'm going to have to take over the gaming world and create some black magic game, because
I'll be in on that. I would love to see a game that actually represents it properly, or even a fantasy story. I'm actually going to write a story. Go ahead. I cut you off. You go.
Yeah.
Ahead.
Oh no, totally. Like that's when you forget that you're looking at a screen and you think you're actually in the game. Boom. That there's the magical. It is a magical trick that all of a sudden, and it doesn't come. You can get the same thing you can get a similar thing when you're watching a movie and the movie really captures you, but the movie has to be really great to do that. With video games, because of the interactive nature of it, the fact that your choices are being displayed in this way, you forget
totally
your
lose connection. You lose total connection to reality.
No.
Yeah.
I lost connection?
No, I was saying when you're doing the video game, you're like, I know it's happened so much. I got you trained.
Yeah. Well, not again. But yeah, you can completely lose to the point that your wife walks up and she's standing right there. You don't even see her because it's just you're zeroed in.
What TV show was it where the wife comes in and like needs her husband to do something? He's like, "Not right now, honey. Not right now. The Crips are moving in on my territory." He's playing GTA or something like that, and it's it's like way more important to him that like he's got gang stuff to do tonight. Like this total white dude is hilarious.
Oh yeah,
I forget what show that was.
That allows us the gaming world does allow the imagination to kind of go wild and go deep, and it can be harnessed. That can definitely be harnessed for magical potential.
Amen. That's what we were talking about before with like the virtual nature of the internet and computers, is that we live in a world now where we can vicariously act through avatars. Well, that's what you're doing already. It's a natural progression of one to the other. Yeah.
One thing I'd like to add to the avatar concept is it's good to have an idea of if you could drop all resistance, if you could drop all fear, all doubt, what kind of person could you become? And can you amplify that until that person is so amazing that your present self would be compelled to worship or to follow? If you can create that, that is the whole template of become a living God. Is that you're actually aspiring to become the best version of yourself, so great a version of yourself that any lesser version would see this as being godlike. But what it's helpful to have a vision of that, and then it's also very helpful to be like water and to let that continually raise itself as you ascend. That you can keep putting that vision out, and as you reach that point, you said the enlightenment. You have this realization not of the perfection of the world. Enlightenment is actually a realization of the imperfection of your current state. And then you go, now I've got to lift it up a bit. And then once you do, that needs to be an ongoing kind of inventory of your life and yourself, and pushing that ever beyond what you thought you could be.
Yeah, I mean, definitions aside, I mean that's not quite how I define it, but it's not wrong, because it's like there's all different kinds of enlightenment, right? Like, why does it? There's not just one. And when I'm speaking of enlightenment, of course, there's different notes of it. But that's true. I mean, because the to me, it's when you hit that point and you see these imperfections, you don't see them as imperfections. You see them as choices. You see them as, like Baal would tell you, they're things that you're doing, and if you want to change them, it's karma. Okay, karma is not a punishment. Karma is cause and effect in action. And you can change the path of that karma anytime. You can be, XYZ bad guy, whatever you are, and tomorrow turn over a new leaf and be completely different if you want to. The question is, do you truly, truly want to? And you have to. So are they flaws, or are they things that you simply realize, aha, I made decisions based on a flawed perspective, and those decisions don't serve me anymore. And so now it's time to make those decisions mean something else. That's all I'm saying. I'm not at all. But you did say you wanted me to disagree with you on occasion.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I wanted us to get into a heated debate. So
fuck you, dude.
This can be it. Yeah. But no,
that's probably as far as it'll go, because we agree on just.
Well, the preface to any enlightenment is that dark night of the soul. That you hit the point of giving up, and immediately upon giving up, you're stricken by the answer that you're looking for.
It's so true. That's why you're facing that wall and getting hit with sticks for days and days and days at a time. Supposed to be thinking about nothing. You're going to go, this is not fucking working someday, and you're going to grab that stick when he hits you with it and walk out. And then while you're taking a dump later, a couple of years later, you go, oh.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And if you're not ready for it, the secret can be placed in front of you. You'll never see it.
Yep. So true. Adam says, "Hey DH, thank you for the kind words earlier, brother. I had no idea what I said resonated with what you had, which you'd read in the Baal Compendium. Such a coincidence, especially since I work closely with him. He really does too. Like, that's his go-to. Awesome dude. Send me that graphic you want me to paint for you, by the way, too, because I really do want to. I don't know if I'm going to do it, but I'd like the opportunity to look at it. So Adam asks, "Hey EA," I think he asked, "Hey EA, thank you for the work you do. Your video evoking Baal in the desert from a few years helped as I was getting started working with Baal." So Adam's a cool dude. If you ever talk to him on Facebook, he's awesome. He's that guy who'd be my personal trainer if he lived around here. He's freaking awesome.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. And then that. So I don't like watching videos of me doing ritual. This is a funny little thing. He mentions that. Like to look back and see that, I actually find my ritual videos disturbing. Because it's not me. It's not the me that I think is me. There's a cognitive dissonance there between seeing myself engaging and especially becoming possessed by these forces, and coming back to that samsaric self of going, but that's not me. That's so often divergent from me.
Yeah.
To watch your body and myself being used as this puppet in order to show myself something it's a crazy experience. And then the fact that the rest of the world gets to see it too is additionally crazy.
I showed you an example of it, and it's something that I don't do as much as I used to. When I was a teenager, possession was my go-to, because we'd do hypnotic induction, and I would get into a trance state. We'd start doing whatever, and spirits would come along when called, or sometimes they just show up, and I would start acting in their way. I would get up, I'd walk around, or I'd talk for them, I'd channel, basically. But it was a possessive form, and it's nothing like fucking, The Exorcist. That's such BS, for the most part. I'm not saying you'll never have a rage moment. I'm just saying it's not like that. No, and I'm telling you, if you have a rage moment, when I have been in possession and that manifested as rage for whatever reason, it's not going to be just me yelling and screaming. It's going to be, I pick you up with one hand and throw you like a rag doll. It's going to be, and it's my body doing it. I'm not saying I'm Superman. I'm not saying I can fly. When it's over, I'm going to hurt because my adrenaline kicked in, or whatever they had to do to make it work. My muscles had to rip. I had to do something that wasn't good for me. But it's not like the movies. You are not going to be, if you'll see me, my eyes will be dead, and I will walk at you like you're food, and I will throw you around like a rag doll, and then I will laugh and spit on you and walk away. It's not like, there's a reason for it. There's always a reason for it. There's a lesson being given at that moment. And it never goes too far. And I'm not saying it never does with other people. Like, sometimes I think, what we do is a little bit of a mistake, I think. And I do it too. And I think we often act like these beings are benevolent. Like they have some kind of benevolence to them. And I'm not saying that they are not, I don't think they're malevolent. But I don't think we're fair when we're constantly saying this spirit's so good for us and so this and that. There's a dark side. There's a part of them that is not benevolent. There is a part of them like us that has a shadow. And it's not a shadow for them because they've integrated it so much better than we have on average. Usually an ascended being has integrated its shadow quite effectively. But they are more aware, so they will punish, but they're not petty. Like when we say, I used the wrong candle color, he's going to be no, they don't care. Yeah. Do you think that we make a mistake there, or do you think that, because I'm telling you, just watching your videos, we'll talk about the darkness, but we're always promoting how good they are. We're always talking of benevolence. What do you feel about that? Am I wrong, or do you agree or disagree with that thought?
Well, in working with these dark beings, we're approaching them as dark or demonic beings. We're approaching the Lord of Darkness, and the Lord of Darkness is the opposer. He's the adversary, and that means he opposes you. Especially as being the chief observer of your reality, he opposes you more than anything else. And so in all of these various forms, there is a matter of especially when you start playing with the universe in an active way, it says, now we have somebody that wants to actually play this game. And it starts to, it is meant to destroy you, to destroy your concept of who you are. Lucifer told me when I was 19 and I started working with him, he said, he threw the ineffable name at me. I said, what's really your name? All of these different names are attributed to you. And he says, when you get to the point of being able to actually speak my name, it's not going to be a speaking, that the very utterance of it will obliterate your reality and then leave you with something that you can then build a new reality upon. Yeah. And I was like, what the hell? At the time, I'm thinking, I just have to learn this secret word. Right?
Yeah. But little did you know, it's way more than that little mechanical blah. It's something much more meaningful. Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. I do. I think that, but does that make them benevolent, or does that make, so how do you play with that?
I like to take tragedy and find the insight and find the blessing, as in large part, honestly, as a childhood defense mechanism. And so maybe that's part of, maybe it's like a PTSD thing that
What
I'm
if
always trying to stir it up, you know?
this just occurred to me because I'm asking the question legitimately because I'm wondering what the answer. Well, what if that is part of our power? Okay, what if they are non-benevolent or malevolent? Because I said that already, right? But it's us who are turning them into benevolent expressions, right? It's kind of like a gun; it can be used for good or evil, right?
Even more than that, it's like the wind or any element or you know to bring it back full circle to ball. It's the storm. It's a natural storm, a force of nature that you can't argue with. So this is where
You can collect the rain, or you can get zapped by the lightning.
yeah. One so pain is really good. Pain kind of shows us what to avoid or what to step into. But where pain becomes suffering is when we start to argue with it and argue with the reality that's being presented and say, it shouldn't be this way. It shouldn't. This storm is bad and it's doing bad things to me. Well, okay, why'd you evoke that storm?
Yeah.
You are, especially as a magician, you are the storm that's moving everything in your world, and even as a magician, you're more conscious of it. Everybody's doing this all the time. We are at the eye of the storm because the storm is being created by us. All of the events that happen in our lives, every problem that we have, even if it's a problem that we had in our past, is presently occurring within us. You make a fun point in Become the Maelstrom that there's no such thing as the present moment, that it's always slipping into the past, and it is, and it's what we're clinging to, what stories we're telling, what we're hanging on to that really define who we are.
Yeah, I think it was, well, the present is all there is, but we live in the past. Our ego is a story that is based in the past. The present moment is all that exists, and we identify with the past. So that's, you're not far off. It's all, something else I wrote in there was, you suffer precisely because you think you shouldn't. I mean, that is the source of suffering. It's because you think you're not supposed to. And the irony is, just like what we were talking about, the 4 stages of ascension, when you reach that level of being, it's the same thing as ending suffering. You stop trying and you start being. You stop channeling and you start being. So if you're worried about suffering, if suffering is what you're trying to end, you'll never end it. You have to fully embrace suffering without meaning to do it even. Because if you're meaning to do it, that's no better. It's like people who are saying, Thorne, you're too egotistical. Well, if I stop trying to be egotistical, then that would be no different than being egotistical, would it? It's just my ego playing the game again. It's just saying, look how great I am. I have no ego. I'm the humblest person that ever lived. It's the same thing. It's just also, you can apply that to suffering. The moment, that's the desire that's really probably meant in the Buddhist, doctrines. That's the desire we're talking about, is the desire not to suffer. You cannot stop suffering by desiring for it to happen. You have to let go, and you can't let go on purpose. So what do? We engage in meditations and magic, which is a form of yogic, integration. We engage in these practices because they give us this video game where we can forget the nagging person telling us to take the garbage out that is the suffering. But the truth of the matter is, you're playing the game in such a way that the end result eventually is going to be you going, I get it. I don't mind anymore. And that is, I started practicing magic not as a path to that. I had achieved that feeling. And then I said, that means there's no reason not to practice magic. Whether it's real or not, I have a right to play with it. Because when I started it, I was still skeptical. And I said, it's not real. It's bullshit. This guy KOETTING, he's just some guy with his shirt off dancing around a thing. It's got to be bullshit. But that's kind of cool. That's like what I used to do. Let me do this again. And so it wasn't a path to enlightenment. It was the next step. After that moment of I'm the universe happened, it was the next step. I said, even if it's not real, I'm going to play with it. I'm going to respect the practice. I'm going to celebrate it. And this goes back to something Alan Watts had said. You don't have to believe in the religion to go into their service and practice that service with all of your intention and enjoy the shit out of it.
Yeah.
Well, when I did it, I ended up finding out it was real. So,
Well, one of the things to actually hit back at the beginning of this entire conversation, you talked about bliss, and that's something that I loved about Christopher Maya, and his work was all about ecstasy. That if you throw yourself into the ritual, the end result should and needs to be ecstasy, and the ritual itself is an expression of that ecstasy. And if you attain that, that is the religious union. That is the union between upper and lower. It does produce that ecstasy, and the ecstasy drives you to it. So it is the path and the destination at the same time.
yeah, no, that's, and it's kind of like someone saying in there. Amanda N is saying something. Let me see. They say you're not wrong if one wants to change. It's healthy to talk about the darker side of this path, just like the mundane life. Not everything is rainbow and puppies. And one thing I'd like to touch on is also mundanity. You know, everything becomes mundane as you ascend. You know, your first magical spell that you ever succeeded seems like silly now to someone who's really been doing this for a while. I did a candle spell and, you know, something for like my friend to call me. It was really cool, but you don't brag about that one anymore. Now you're bragging about the one where you did the spell and, you know, you cornered the market on some stock that you wanted or something. Now you're talking about bigger picture stuff. So you're always, this is why I did that video, Godhood for Dummies. Good and evil, mundane and normie and magical and all these things, they're just context. They're just, you are here, this is this way and this is that way. And you're looking that way and saying, that's mundane and that's magical. But you're constantly moving one way or the other on that slider. And it's always going to feel mundane to you. So, sooner or later, even the ability to fly will seem boring and mundane. Give it long enough. On a long enough timeline, life becomes hell. On a long enough timeline, heaven becomes hell. On a long enough timeline, hell becomes heaven. It's unavoidable. It's unavoidable. It's so that's why when we're talking about bliss, you will find that bliss is not found, it is sought.
Mm.
And on that note, no,
yeah, and there is so if you the bliss is not found, it is sought is an interesting one. Well, so I guess the ecstasy, the state of ecstasis is really the path.
Yep, you froze again. You said the ecstasis is, and then you froze. Nope, you're still frozen. Give it a second. The ecstasis is. The ecstasis. Almost. You just blurped again. Almost. I feel like we have to come on, everybody. Let's do a spell for EA's internet provider. Stop downloading all the sports scores. Okay, you're back. The ecstasis is.
Okay. Yeah. The ecstasis is the pathway to that bliss. Is you know, so when I'm helping somebody troubleshoot their rituals and they're going, well, I spend this much time doing this meditation and then I switch over to this. If you've got the presence of mind to be looking at a clock, you are not deep enough.
Yeah.
You know, go deeper with Tritaka meditation, where you're gazing at a candle's flame and not blinking, and if you've got a clock visible to you, you're not even watching the candle's flame anymore. You're watching that clock, going, "Good God, is this 5 minutes up?"
Yeah.
But then once you actually lose yourself in the pain of the experience, the suffering of it, and just go, "Okay, it is what it is." You let this sigh out, and then that's when that bliss or that ecstasy does overtake you, and then it tumbles. It's a tumbling experience, because then you come back to the pain, you come back to the discomfort, and you come back to trying to get out of it. And that always is the fun thing of not allowing yourself to go away from the experience.
Yeah. We talked about that too. It's like, don't meditate to lose yourself. Meditate to be to experience yourself. Don't try to tune it all out. Don't ever try to tune it all out. Now, what if I told you that you're already experiencing bliss right now, but just like you had said earlier, when it came to suffering, suffering is caused by the experiences being something you argue with, that you deny. What if I told you you're already in bliss, and the only reason that you're not is because you refuse to recognize it because you think you're not supposed to suffer? And what if I told you that you're experiencing bliss right now in every way, including when you break your leg or have a horrible moment? That is bliss because it's experience. That's exactly what you want. But you have decided bliss means this, and so therefore you're not experiencing it. What if that is what's going on?
So I think even the process of becoming aware of what you're doing, what you're engaged in, becoming that observer, it's hard to be that observer without feeling blissful, without feeling the peace of the whole thing. Going, okay, well, for instance, most people would point to like a breakup, a heartbreak being such a terrible experience. No, that is bliss. That is ecstasy. To feel that crushed and to feel that low, to be painting your fingernails black and cutting yourself in the bathroom. I mean, whatever it is that whatever.
I think some of us have been there. Yeah. I got a scar or two.
So but just like being that low is really a very high state. And when you kind of flip and become aware of that and go, I'm experiencing exactly what I want to experience, you become the overarching observer of your own reality, no matter what state you're in. It's like, that is bliss. This is exactly where it should be. If not, I think there are a lot of people that have the opposite experience. They look at their reality and go, well, this is not what I wanted. Well, why did you create it, and how can you create a better one?
How do you create a better one? And is it really going to be better? Or, as we said already several times, are you fighting a path you're supposed to be on? I don't think free will is the proper question or term. I've had this debate a few times. Free will is this idea that you're free of something else, right? I mean, it's right in the term. I have free will. Well, what are you free from then? What is it you're exactly separated from with that will of yours? What exactly are you in opposition to that you can be in opposition to? As I've said to you before, the back of the hand and the front of the hand, which one's got free will?
Right.
Now, I've said to people, you are looking at the situation as if your reality is wrong. It's not. If that was true, every day of my life until 2018 was wrong. And that's not true. Every day of my life got me to when I reawoke to magic in late 2018. And 20 years from now, I might go, wow, everything from 2018 wasn't where I was meant to be either. So all of those things, all those failures where I fucked up and I did the wrong things and I followed the wrong passions and the wrong dreams because they would make me money, they would make other people around me happy, they were the easier thing to do, they weren't the thing that, well, you can say those were failures. What you don't see is that by trying to be a graphics designer, I got really good at art. By loving video games too much, I got good at computers. By loving, all this other stuff, I got good at this and this and this and all these other skills. And now here I am where I fart and people applaud on YouTube. I mean that nicely, guys, but I mean, honestly. I'm at that point now where I do things that are with intention and power, not because I finally figured it out, although I sometimes frame it that way. What I figured out was that none of those moments were lost. There was nothing to change that I had to fix to perfect. It is a constant, we are always seeking bliss, and we will never achieve it. That is bliss. You're constantly striving. Follow your bliss, and that's how you experience it. You're not going to land on, hey, I landed on bliss, and I'm going to stay here. That's not what happens.
Right. Not even for the amount of time that it takes to say that phrase, because you'll catch it in a twinkling of an eye, and then you're transformed. But then it vanishes.
It did for me too. Like I had that moment of Zen where I floated up and I saw my universe as me. I was like, holy shit! And what I brought back with me is a shadow of what it was really like. I'm not going back there. Why? If that was so awesome, why am I still here talking to you? No offense. I mean, you're awesome. I love talking to you, dude. Why am I not floating up above and doing God things?
Well, so that's even one of the funny things that people will put out there when they're like, okay, so you're talking about becoming the living God and that you've mastered these godlike powers. You don't need the internet to be able to communicate with people. No, you're right. It's just a lot more fun to do
It's a
it
lot
this
more
way.
fun. Yeah.
Like I could easily sit in this temple and just vibrate all the vibrations that I want to vibrate, and I'm sure that we would be connected on a soul level. And even the fact that you and I have arrived at some very interesting gnosis that has been delivered to us by these spirits that shouldn't really exist on their own. Um, all of this is a really fun game that's really fun to play. And if it wasn't, I wouldn't be playing it.
I mean,
And
I put video games down for this for a long time, man. This is a lot more fun than it. I mean, there's days where it's like, not tonight, honey. I got to reach.
right? No, exactly. Yeah, I'm talking to DH tonight, so we're gonna unravel some real shit, and you gotta hold off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
One of my fans just said, I think they're our fans now. They said, I've never seen you go this late or this long, guys. Like, wow. So they don't know us, man. Like every time we talk, it'll be like, oh, just an hour or two, and like 4 o'clock in the morning rolls around. It's like, oops.
yeah, no, for sure. No, and I think I do have to wrap up in the next like 15, but let's take final questions and jump into the last little things.
That's a really good
yeah.
I got to get some keto snacks in me, dude. I've been really good. I've been like completely on ketosis for like 3 or 4 days. I lost 12 pounds already. Woo!
Drinking plenty of water.
I didn't have to because I already do, but no, I should probably drink a little more. I've been DH's chair squeaks and I applaud. I've been drinking these things because they're like. I asked him like my one weakness is soda. He's like, well, fine. There's the healthier drinks that you can drink. Just don't drink like Diet Coke. That'll fucking throw you right off of it.
Well,
like, all right.
Well, even if I'll do a little like sparkling water, just the fact that it sparkles,
Gives
like
you that bubbles. Yes, yeah. I totally feel it, dude. You and I swear to God, you must have had like a different mom or something, or just my dad must have went visiting. Out
That's
there.
something along those lines.
Something funny, dude.
Same dark father.
It's holy shit, man. No, it's so true, and it's like it helps me so much, and I get through it. And now I'm feeling like a boss. All right, guys. So this is how this works. We've been reading your questions, but it's been hard for me to read them. Please put them in all caps, or of course, there's always the super chats. I mean, you can, if you don't want to, that's fine. But all caps at the very least, or highlight my name or something. If you have any last questions, 15 minutes to go. In the meantime, tell them a little bit about where they can get your book. If they don't know who you are, why are they following me? Is probably the better question. But guys, if you don't know who EA is, how can they find you? And what can you do to get a hold of one of these? They are limited quantity, of course, because you don't do anything. I mean, maybe someday they'll come out as a paperback somewhere, but for a long time, these are going to be limited supply, right? So how can they get stuff, and what can you tell them?
Yeah, absolutely. Go to balg.co, so balg.co/ball, BAAL, and that'll get you to the sales page for the book. You can get the book, which is the Compendium. I think it's 13 different authors that have all contributed to this, as well as the Pathworking video course. If you sign up tonight or tomorrow morning, you can get in on a ritual that I'll be performing tomorrow night. And so you've got to jump on that like right away if you want to get in on this group ritual. I'll be doing a holy evocation of Baal, and basically taking the energy of that storm and handing it off to you and seeing what it can do in your life, seeing what damage it can create for you.
There was one thing like with which spirit was it? Belial. One of the services I offered for a little while. I'll probably offer some of these again because some of these are easier to offer without a consult. Like when I do certain workings, it's easier to offer as without a consult because they're more generic and open-ended. But it was basically cursing yourself with Belial to say, Belial, shake the shit out of my tower, find what's broken, and fucking whatever I have to go through. So it's interesting that there's almost a similar thing going on. Like this is Baal. I mean, let's be honest. Right now, we're looking at the world. If this is the season of Baal, we're looking at what hell of a crazy moment.
So you even look at the what's called the Baal cycle is the cycle of the storm rising and then quelling, and then rising and then quelling. Yep. It's so there's definitely a storm that, interestingly, once again, with Baal being the patriarch, that we have the patriarchy that's completely crumbling around us. No, there's some really interesting, undeniable associations, and this is the season of Baal for sure. It's interesting. It's interesting to notice the reverberations throughout the occult world, where, like you said, just like last week, everybody's talking about Asmodee all of a sudden. To see how the attention starts to shift and wind, there does seem to be one kind of dark mind that's guiding a lot of our microcosmic awareness to similar places. So yeah.
Jafer points out, I think accurate. Ishma is more accurate. Ashima Diva also, if you go back, maybe the precursor of Ishma, it was a goddess of fate once upon a time, and Ashma Diva in the Solomonic, the book of Tobit, leading to Asmodai. But fucking awesome spirit, dude. He's top 9, right? He's one of the top, most powerful, coolest. So here's a question, I believe that's more directed at UEA, because I don't touch voodoo with a 10-foot pole. Can voodoo on course or book be used alone safely, or do you need a master? So in other words, they're asking, can you learn that without a master?
Yes. There's a fun little game. The whole master game is a fun one, where you have to be initiated by somebody who's been initiated by somebody. It is a fun game that we can play of validating our practices, I think. But outside of the just validation aspect of it, it is wholly unnecessary. What I say to do is to go get a bag of flour or cornmeal, go out into some wilderness place. I prefer to do it in the desert because, hey, I got it all over around me.
You got a pretty cool desert. I mean, not literally, I guess.
No, it's pretty warm, but yeah. But go out, take the cornmeal or flour and sprinkle it on the ground and to form the lines of Papa Legba's Veve, and then sprinkle some rum on the ground and see if you can feel the energy coming up. And then start just singing and dancing to Legba, whatever words come to you, whatever dance comes to you, and what I like to do is actually take my right hand and shake it over the ground, and then my left hand, and if you can start to hear that your hands are rattling as you're doing this, then you're on the right path. And then at some point, Legba will take over. You'll have yourself opened up to an experience of some sort that's a validation. Yeah. It's a all of this, because of the way we perceive things, it's a binary path. Either it's on or it's off. And so if you go, if you approach Legba and you do this working that I'm describing, the door opens for you and you're good to go. If you feel nothing, the door is closed and it's not for you, and I would probably advise to not take that path. If it is kind of a Shaivistic way of seeing it, but if Shakti doesn't come through me, if the energy doesn't come through to make the thing happen, it's probably not meant to happen, or there's some blockage there that you're not aware of or not ready to confront. So can it be used safely? Well, I mean...
Because I felt like there's a little bit more danger with them, because I feel like so many people have egregorically created these beings that they seem not petty, but they have very particular tastes, very particular needs for summoning and calling. Is that real, or is it... I mean, in your opinion, I mean, obviously we got to be open to other people's opinions on this. In your opinion, is it safe to disregard some of those traditional requirements, like you don't have the right rum for Baron Smati or whatever? What is it? Can it be any rum? Does it really matter? Are they safe to just try?
So, I would say, look, I would take the safety aspect and toss it to the side. I wouldn't worry so much about the safety aspect of things.
I just unplugged. You keep talking. I can't hear you.
Rather
watch it in reruns. my foot hit the wire. Okay, go ahead. Sorry. Safety. Take it out. Throw it out. Throw it in the dumpster.
Rather than worrying about being safe, I try to worry about being stronger. And so uh, I would rather be more capable than be safer. And so to be more capable, you just put yourself into that position. So and this is the dangerous advice I give people is try it out and see. Like
Yeah.
try this at home, kids. And what I like to do for the question of what kind of offering do they like? I'll go into the store and I'll turn my body over to that spirit and say, okay, guide me, show me which rum you like, and then we'll put my hand over the different bottles of rum and see which one has the most gravity, and then that's right, that's the one there. Pick that up and then go walk through the store and see. So I like to do this at like Latin meat markets, carnicerias. Go around and see if there's a specific meat that's pulling you, or a specific pepper, and these are all implements that you can. I like to do it intuitively, and then you can later on, I mean, jot down what you're doing for sure and take some notes about it, because later on in your conscious mind, you can start finding the associations and go, oh my God, this is a perfectly concocted ritual for this spirit. But let yourself be intuitively led to that, and then you get to discover that later. You get to discover how amazing you really are.
Yeah, it's totally true. I agree with all that, because that's pretty much what we do in the other forms. So it's not that different. You know, I do think that there's a tradition involved, like every system has, that the left-hand path, it's almost like our job is to say, do we really need to worry about all these traditional parts that you guys do? I don't know. And just mess with things. And like you said, just be little children playing with blocks. And sometimes you're going to get your finger pinched on the Legos when you're squeezing them together. You know, it's going to happen. So I've never, and of course this is kind of a cop-out, I've never heard of anybody dying to magic, right? You can never prove it. I mean, we all know better, but let's be honest. There's no proof anyone's been killed by a ghost ever. There's no proof anyone's ever been killed by Papa Legba. There's no proof that... Now, we may know better, but I'm just saying you'll probably be fine if you're not... If you set out on a practice with the spirit to be a dick, you're giving out that energy. That energy is going to come around in the Mobius and it's going to hit you. It's just how it is. If you go to any spirit and say, I'm going to command this bitch, I'm going to make him my bitch, I'm going to make him do what I want, I'm going to enslave him, you had better be able to back that up with powers beyond what most of us are capable of manifesting. Give you a hint, the Abrahamic religions have figured out how to do that. They did that to Yahweh a long time ago. That's my gnosis on the subject. Because I don't think Yahweh was what it is now. I think Yahweh's been enslaved to their will. But my point is, don't worry about it. If you have the right intentions that are pure and they're honest, that would be my feeling. And that sounds like what you're saying. And trust what they're showing you. Trust their input on the deal, and be sensitive, of course, to the tradition. Like, don't go into a voodoo don't go to somebody's, don't go to an apothecary, don't go to a conjure house or something, start talking about how you do it and be all braggartly. Understand that you're going to get, the dagger shot at you. You might even get cursed out of it. It's not, they take this stuff in a level that's different, and I respect that, and it's their practice. It's one of the reasons why it's like, I'll let those people who practice it that way do it that way.
Well, there is a value, even magically, to approaching the ritual with awe and respect. You've got a lot of in the medieval grimoires this idea of you're praying for God to protect you from His own light. And please let my body endure this experience, and that does build up the psychodrama to the point of having that chrysalis that we're looking for, having that moment where it just becomes something new, something real. But build that up, being conscious that you're building that up. Like don't build that up in the way of creating the egregor of this entity is trying to harm you, or that is trying to use you, or that you're not going to be worthy.
You said before, it'll fill that vessel, and its energy will manifest through that vessel, and it may manifest in a way that is not what you hope for. Yeah, that's...
Yeah. No, exactly. So, yeah. And it you will have surprises, the shadow that pops up that you go, wasn't expecting that. That's fun. But almost always there is that part of you that is expecting that. You know, when I first evoked King Paimon, he shows up and says, "Who do you think you are to have summoned me?" That's exactly
loud
what
noise.
that's what I really hoped wouldn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but that is it's like you flipping through the tarot and going, "Please not the death card. Please not the death card." You've got a much greater chance of pulling the death card.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. I mean, I noticed that like before a fight, before I'm supposed to make a trick shot, before I'm supposed to do anything, if I sit there and go with those kind of thoughts, boom, it's done. It's gonna happen. Whereas if I just, like today, I had a packet. This is stupid, all right? This is a stupid example, but everyone will resonate with this probably. I was looking at the garbage can. I was cleaning up my area here. It's been a little while. I'm doing that whole clean your room thing. And I grabbed this packet of Chinese sauce that I had from the duck sauce, that sweet sauce. And I'm like, I'm not going to eat this anymore for a long time because I'm on this diet. So I picked this thing up and I look at the garbage can. It's a good 20 feet away, not 20 feet, maybe 15 feet away. And I'm like, I'm stuck in here because I got a wall of crap around me because as I clean, I'm taking things out and putting them back. And I'm thinking, like, what should I do with this? And a little voice said, throw it in the garbage. I'm like, fuck it. And now you know how hard it is to throw a packet, like a ketchup packet? Because they flutter all over the place. This thing went, all I said was, throw it in the garbage, aim to the left. Okay. And it went, bam, right in the garbage like it had eyes. And I'm like, ugh, And that's when you're in the zone. That's like, you can predict your tarot cards popping out once in a while when that happens, and I've done it. Sometimes I got 3 in a row like that. I was like, oh, I should have played the lotto. But then other times, it's like no matter how hard you try, you can't make it work because you're fighting that. Something already told you it's not going to work. And sometimes that's why you're thinking, don't be the death card, because you know it's going to be the death card. That's where it's coming from anyway. You're manifesting through those cards because your subconscious knows where they are, and it's feeding them out for you. So I'm just saying, man, like, the question again becomes chicken and egg, becomes cause and effect, becomes, did I do magic or did I just predict it really well? Did I do magic or did I just follow the pattern really well? Like the ancients who knew a solar eclipse was coming and that they last a certain amount of time and say, on this day and so, demon's going to eat the sun unless you let me have what I want out of your kingdom. Is it any different? Is it not just a kind of self-con, a self charlatanry in a way, sometimes? And I wonder about that, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, in order to create anything, we have to see it first. We have to imagine it first. It all happens through us and then as us, But we're in a unique position on this planet as being the only animals that we see that are doing this, and so it's
as far as we understand it anyway. I don't know.
That's true. That is true.
I mean, cats have cat worlds, like who knows what their world looks like to them.
Right, and I guess we're the only ones that are struggling with it. Like the wolf has embraced his magic fully, and he's capable of doing things I simply am not able because I tell myself I'm simply not able. And then if you can ask that question, well, then the wolf isn't a wolf anymore. The wolf becomes something else.
True.
But it is that. Once again, the constantly raising the ceiling of who we can become, expanding the edges of it. So yeah,
I think that's great. Man. That's so true.
Yeah, but yeah. So to answer the question directly from a few minutes ago, though, you should check out the Ball Compendium at ball.co/ball. Give it a proper plug there, or you can check out all of my works just at becomealivinggod.com.
This is it. I gotta tell you, it's a quality book. I have another one from you guys. But this one, it's a quality book. I mean, yeah, it's kind of standard. When I say standard, I mean it's like a standard cloth book, but it's got nice paper. Like it's got like that. It's not like if you buy my Amazon books, like that paper has like that. It's like a texture to it, which some people like. This has that almost really smooth, fine paper, but it's thick, and it kind of threw me off because I'm like, this is almost like Bible paper, but it's like it's extra thick. It's actually nice.
Yeah, no. So Timothy and I we've gone through several different printers and are constantly improving the process. And so we'll go through and actually feel the different paper stocks. We'll get the printing press to send us the different stocks that we can, and we'll feel it and smell it, and the specific cut on the edges. I mean, everything. We really go. It, not just a book, but a grimoire. Like there is something magical about that. Like it is an amulet on its own in a way. And so
it's like an artifact all its own.
Mm-hmm.
I do like that. I like its weight. It's a quality book. And one thing I noticed to myself was when I was reading it. Normally, when I have a hardcover book, I got to bitch the spine. I got to break that bitch. This thing, I opened it expecting to have to do that, and it just mostly laid flat. Almost not flat, but it laid comfortably in my hand while I'm reading it. I didn't have to like put my finger in it and hold the pages. It was bound in such a way it's ready to be read already right out of the. I know those are little things, but the bibliophiles in the group might care about those things.
Well, so that's all actually like intentionally part of being a bibliophile. That as we're looking at the different ways that we can create books, looking at that binding, and if you open it up and you have to actually hear that cracking. That's glue. You don't want too much glue. You want to have more of an actual like sewn binding.
Mm-hmm.
So it does just lay itself open. But like that once again, it's kind of geeking out into it. But it's
yeah, but I noticed. I mean, I noticed it. Like it's like I have a lot. Yeah. I mean, it's a nice touch. It's a quality item. I mean, it's expensive, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. Okay, I bought from you guys before. I'll buy. And I'm like, no, that's a quality book. That's worth the money. Yeah. That's a nice book. It's a good book, totally. All right, brother. So you and I will probably talk for another few minutes after we get done here. And hopefully I made a boo-boo. You had asked me for a recording of this, and I in my scatterbrainness to get started, I didn't hit the record. But I should be able to download it from YouTube later and send it to you so you can upload it later for your own. But if not, we'll find a way. Maybe I can record it and send it to you some other way. So plus it was like 2.5 hours. So
yeah, well, this will also be YouTube will probably just generate this as a video that others can watch, right? Because that's the main thing is I want people to see this.
Yes, it will be. It will be shared out everywhere, and I will of course repost it a few times. I'll put it on the I'll put it on the favored page for a little bit too on my social media stuff. So, but yeah, man. So. As always, like you and I could talk for hours, and hopefully when we get done, we'll only talk for a few minutes. But I love having you here, brother. I love your insight. I love your energy. Meeting you has been something I didn't know I'd be really this stoked up about. But after getting to know you, privately, I mean, I don't give a fuck what the public front is. The private front is awesome. You're a great guy. Thanks. And you genuinely, when you showed me your path working for the gatekeepers, like, damn, this motherfucker knows what he's talking. Okay, this is good shit. I mean, I appreciate what you're doing, man. And again, for those of you who don't know, EA KOETTING, I mean, how could you not? But if you don't, please go to everything he has, look him up, and follow his work. His older work is replete with examples of free magical lessons. The lectures are top-notch, good stuff. Don't hesitate to recommend any of it. And on the few moments where I might go, well, I disagree with that personal gnosis. I don't disagree with it in the large sense. I disagree with it in the. I didn't have that experience, but maybe that's valid. So good stuff, and I appreciate what you're doing, man. I appreciate.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it across the board, and now I'm excited for more conversations like this. This is the fun thing to jump into. So yeah,
we're gonna do it, man. Especially and just to my fans, I do have something coming up soon. For those of you who are working with the Shadownomicon, a couple of guys that are working with the Shadownomicon with me, and maybe I can interest EA in this at some point as well. But there's going to be a gate opening movement we're going to do to try to bring these shadows through for everybody, to try to help the world integrate these things a little bit more actively. And what you're seeing right now is like what happens when you don't integrate your shadow. So
yeah, I was gonna, so because there is like the immediate, ooh, that sounds unsafe, but really that's the most productive path. It seems very unsafe before you do it.
Yeah. So there's going to be some things to this. We're going to be beginning this early, and then once we've proved the system, I'll be putting out probably a micro grimoire, probably for free, for everybody who wants to participate in this. So hopefully you guys will be into that and get to doing that in your own hometown and get this movement going. So hopefully that'll be interesting to everybody. But all right, guys, so let's call it here. I guess that's it, right, man?
Yeah, no, I feel like we've covered it all and walked around the block a few times.
And I had my big stick at the end.
Right?
All right, guys, good night.
Thanks, everybody.
And it's over. All right.